those places up for rental, we still maintain the storage on the bottom of the building. We still maintain a microwave dish sits up on top. They don't get access to the attic. We still keep our storage up there, but we just and it's like you said, it's positive cash flow back to the city. The city now has a new fund that they can count on this money coming in. It depends whether they want to say no, we're always going to spend it on parks because it's close to a park, it's part of the park, or whatever department needs it that year, or a part of it.
That's right.
We need new playground equipment or something, and we don't have enough money to replace everything. It's fun.
Yeah,
It's better than it is now.
that's right.
Big
No,
buildings just rotting away. I just have, I mean, you look at the buildings and you look at these TV shows where they take a crappy house and it just transforms.
flip my crib, that kind
Yeah.
of thing, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't, I mean, you look at it that way, strip it down to the skeleton that it is and build it back up with a new roof and everything, a new walkway to make it accessible. You have a diamond in the rough.
Yeah, we dropped $50,000 in one of those buildings, you know, so
And then that area right there in front of what the Spain River Fund, I guess we can improve that roadway, fill in that thing.
Is that why it must be a soundproof?
Oh yeah, it's soundproof.
Hey, Carl, have you guys had any of this kind of discussion at the department level? Because I think one idea is up there.
We're meeting tomorrow to discuss it. Tomorrow.
Is that the AC that's on in there? Because when you open that door, all the cold breeze come out.
See, I just got the business right here.
We're just barely, we just talked today about, we should meet about it, and we decided to talk about tomorrow. But tomorrow is just the first discussion, ideas to brainstorm, how we would do, or deciding what we're gonna do, and what we'll talk from there. Just like exploratory brain,
Ricky said to say hi to you.
raking the brain to see what we're going. So I'm gonna propose that, and see if
He's
it
working,
gets
I
shot
know.
down.
He's that type of person, when he's around, he's driving you crazy. But when he's gone, you miss him. That's mine. Yeah, I know Ricky. I know you're Ricky, I know. Yeah, he's working for Amazon.
Rick's son, Ricky. I think half of my gray hair came from your son. Love him dearly, and I do miss him.
He's doing all right.
Hey, you're number 9. Oh, you're number 8. 13.
Any of the places.
We don't need no county over here making trouble.
Ha ha ha.
Hey, I didn't come to your meeting. You're lucky. I was thinking about it though.
Anytime.
No, I actually popped in for about 10 minutes. I was at work and it accidentally came up. I was
You know, my mother was on this for 16 years and I never lived with one
You
kid.
are smart.
She said, "Oh, I'm old
Smart.
enough."
Good evening.
We never did, we never did.
well, I tried to stay out because I really want to
Diana,
interfere with the work.
Diana,
Roland's still connecting.
Oh, yeah.
wait, look at this big old email.
Friends of Vince, right?
Yeah.
Christine, are you ready?
Yes, sir, I'm ready.
This time we're going to resume the meeting of September 8th, 2020. City Manager, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Brett,
Ready?
Wait, hold on.
you're leading the pledge.
Fire? Yeah.
Okay, ready? Salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
Thank you, City Manager.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Velazquez?
Here.
Councilmember Lenore?
Present.
Councilmember Resendez?
Present.
Councilmember Spencer?
Present.
Interim City Manager Miller?
Present.
City Attorney Epperson?
Present.
Interim Police Chief Reynoso?
Present.
Thank you. The agenda for the City of Hollister City Council regular meeting of September 8th, 2020 was posted on the bulletin board on September 2nd, 2020 at 11:30 a.m. per Government Code Section 54954.2.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. City Attorney, will you please report out from closed session?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report out of closed session is that the City Council discussed in closed session those items agendized for closed session discussion, and direction was given to staff. The City Council recessed from closed session at 6:35 p.m. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. This time we're going to move to the consent agenda. Are there any items council would like to pull?
Not me.
Is there any items the public would like to pull?
I have none, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion carries. We're going to move to public input. This is the time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item not on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Speaker cards are available in the lobby and are to be completed and given to the city clerk before speaking. When the city clerk calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and city for the record, and speak to the city council. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes per subject. Please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda. Do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speaker cards. I'm going to check the attendee list in just a second, which I don't see anyone with their hand raised. But since we're on the topic of speaking, we've had a complaint from a constituent that while on Zoom, they're unable to hear people speaking on the dais and at the podium. So I'm just going to please reiterate to use your microphones, speak clearly, and whenever possible, if you can remove your mask, that would help as far as the speaking part goes. Or if you can just make sure that you're talking into your microphone, because once you get to the microphone, they say they can hear. It's if you're gazing off or talking off topic, you can hear that it kind of just, but if you're right on your mic like this, everyone can hear it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I do have one hand raised now.
I'm sorry?
I have one hand raised.
Go ahead.
Courtney Evans.
Can you hear me?
We can. Please go ahead.
Perfect. Earlier, almost 14 days ago, I was emailed the Code of Ethics and Values from the City of Hollister, and in that it states that the code will be reviewed and evaluated annually. This was put out in, I believe, December 18th, 2017, and I had publicly requested to see the reviews and how this was evaluated annually, and I have not been responded to that. So I would please like to ask that for 2018 and 2019 that I see how this was evaluated and reviewed by the city council, the boards, and the commissions. Thank you.
That's it.
I have no other speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We're going to move to item D1, City Manager's report.
Yeah, on the public comment item, I will have staff review that and see what those items are.
Thank you. D2.
There are no trainings at this time.
All right, this time we're going to go ahead and move to item F1. Go ahead, City Manager.
Actually, a staff member is going to be presenting this one.
Good evening. So this item is related to an employment contract with Brett Miller for the position of city manager. The staff report is brief and speaks for itself, so if the public has any questions regarding this item, they may address the city council or the city attorney. Therefore, I turn it over back to the council. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Any comments or questions from council?
I'll make a comment. I just want to say that it's been a pleasure to work with Brett as interim city manager for since November. He's been very attentive to things I ask him. He if he doesn't have the answer, he gets it and he gets right back to you. And I always like that because I don't expect a city manager to know everything. But I expect them to see what their staff says and get back to me. I found him enjoyable to work with, and I think that you will too. I think that staff has a team player that you know. Sometimes the unknown is not always good. You can work with what you know. Brett was a safe pick, and right now I want it safe. So that's why I opted to go with Brett as full-time city manager, permanent. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Any other comments from council?
I'll make a brief comment if I may.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Brett Miller, I think you've been an incredible asset to the city staff, and nobody could have predicted the unprecedented events that we stumbled upon in 2020, and you have just repeated my expectations. I'm extremely grateful that you are have been the interim city manager, and I think that you and your staff have handled with the utmost respect any situation that's come towards us, and I'm extremely grateful for you. So thank you, and best of luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Mr. City Manager, I would agree with both Councilmember Lenora Resendez. You came in at a time where we were having some very big struggles and something no one could ever have predicted. And you took that and you made things happen under extremely stressful situations. We had many phone calls trying to move through this time. At the same time, working through the city's finances and everything else you were in charge of. You absolutely excelled through this. You showed you could handle the, I don't want to call it the stress of it, but you can handle tough times, shall I say. And again, you've been very responsive with questions, doing the research, working with the team, and that this is what we were all looking for, I believe, as our future city manager. So I want to say thank you for all the hard work you have done.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Okay. Do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speaker cards, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion?
It was your pick on one.
I make a motion that we accept resolution number 2020-172, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hollister approving an employment agreement with Brett I. Miller for city manager services.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council. I look forward to continue.
You were my choice, my very first choice.
Mr. Mayor, may I give him the oath now?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
So, do your phone.
This is going to be yours to sign. And I'll get you a pen. So if I may have you raise your right hand and repeat after me. Am I in anybody's way?
Okay.
Is that better?
Perfect.
I state your name.
I, Brett Miller,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and
I will have true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of California.
that I take this obligation freely
I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will,
will and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I'm sorry, and will,
Upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter. Sorry.
Congratulations.
Last part got me.
Congratulations, Brett.
Thank you.
The pretty one, you gave me the other. Good luck.
Thank you.
Let the fun begin.
Good luck to you.
Thank you, Mr.
You're
Mayor.
welcome. And thank you very much. We are now going to move to item F2.
Mr. Mayor, F2 is adoption of the ordinance for the City of Hollister amending Chapter 6 Animals, which would be adding Section 6.08.125, mandatory microchipping of dogs and cats prior to release after second impound. There are no amendments or changes, so this is just coming back for the second reading and adoption.
Ready, motion?
Oh, motion, okay. I recommend that we waive full reading and adopt an ordinance. Excuse me, I'll get the number. Adopt ordinance number 1193. 1193, requiring the mandatory microchipping of dogs and cats which have been impounded by Animal Care and Services Division after the second impoundment.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We're going to move to item F3. Who will be presenting this?
Hi, this is Eva from the planning department. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. Item F3 is the second reading of an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the zoning code to add in some cannabis language that's consistent with Chapter 5. You heard this first reading at the August 17th meeting, and tonight staff is recommending that the council read by title only, waive the full reading, and adopt an ordinance of the City of Hollister to amend the miscellaneous sections of Title 17 zoning. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to help answer.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
No.
No.
Do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speaker cards, Mr. Mayor, and I have no hands raised.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I move that we read by title only, waive the full reading, and adopt an ordinance of the City of Hollister amending miscellaneous sections of Title 17 zoning of the Hollister Municipal Code.
Thank you very much. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're going to move now to item F4.
Okay, Mayor and Council. This item was brought forward to get a consensus from council on August 17th. The intent was that we were working with the County of San Benito to come up with a joint face covering. They did not move forward with a face covering ordinance. We did have a consensus from our council to bring forward though. So we have brought this forward. This is an item to remind people that there are other cities or counties that have this face covering. Some of them are San Francisco, the Santa Clara County, San Mateo County, Santa Cruz, Marin, Alameda. Both Monterey County and the city have a face covering ordinance, and as well as our neighbors to the west, San Juan Bautista. So, like I said, we have brought this ordinance
forward for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Is there any comments or questions from council?
I'll wait till the public hearing.
All right. Do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speaker cards, Mr. Mayor, and I have no one's hand raised.
Thank you. Okay.
Got a hand raise. I got 2 hand raised.
Okay.
The first one is Ben. Ben, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Hi, this is Ben Coffey. Good evening, council members. I'm calling about the mask ordinance. I believe there's fines associated with that. I don't believe the masks prevent the spread of COVID. In fact, I've recently looked up several incidences where even the N95 mask doesn't prevent the spread of COVID. I did find, however, that it slows the spread of the COVID virus. And that, in return, does this flattening of the curve, as they say. However, that doesn't affect the end result of the situation or the death toll or the outcome. All it does is slow down the economy of the town, the businesses in town, and it hurts the people more because of the reaction to the COVID virus than the actual COVID virus itself. Every day the numbers come out and they're stable as far as recovery and individuals who show no signs of extreme diagnosis when it comes to, like, you know, liver failure, heart congestion, things like that. The ability that you guys have to increase the wealth in the economy and in the people in your economy, as I believe a right that you need to take seriously. And finding people that are exempt from wearing a mask, and how are you gonna know who's exempt from wearing a mask and who's not if they go into an establishment and then you find the establishment for somebody coming in without a mask, but they were exempt because they have breathing issues or mental health issues or other issues that prevent them from wearing a mask. There raises a lot of other problems. I don't believe it's worth your time trying to figure out an ordinance on something that's only affecting a small percentage of the population, when in fact the reaction to the virus is affecting the whole population. Whether it's depression or crime or suicide or whatever it may be, the impact has been extremely negative as far as the reaction to the virus and comparison to the virus itself. I think that you should get out of the way of the businesses in town. I mean, you should get out of the way of the education services in town. And I think you should get out of the way of the people in town so that they can freely do what they
Thank you,
want
Ben.
to do.
Thank you, Ben. Your time is up. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Verdana Freitas. Unmute yourself, please.
Hi, good evening. This is Diana Freitas. I emailed you guys on Friday over the weekend a long list of why many of us are opposed to a mask mandate. And there were a lot of little reasons why we were opposed to it. And there was also some cultural and local reasons as to why we need to leave people alone and look after our businesses. I think our biggest concern right now is getting all of our businesses open right away. Our downtown is going to suffer. The restaurants that have outdoor seating are not going to be able to carry that out very much longer. October, November, it's going to get rainy and cold, and then what are you going to do? I think our businesses are going to be forced to die, especially based on the science that's out there. As of right, the sciences conflict. You can have a leftist scientist say that masking works, and you'll have a conservative scientist say it does not. So who gets to say whose science is correct? I think individuals.
Exactly.
I just heard you guys take an oath of office to uphold the Constitution and the California Constitution. And I think in order to do that, you need to let individuals make the choices of what they need to do to best take care of themselves, the family, and the community. And to force mandates on people is going to be very divisive, based on some of those points I outlined. And we really need to be proactive getting our businesses open. If businesses want to open with masks, then people who don't want to wear masks don't need to go there. People want to open without masks, then people who want to wear masks don't need to go there. The fairest thing that you can do is to open up this community and let people make the mortality rate of this year's flu, and that's what it is. This year's flu is less than 0.5%. So that puts us right in range with all the other flus. I think there is no science, I know there is no science that validates masking healthy people. You're talking about masking 98% of the people. Further, CDC has already come out and amended their mortality rates. They've already come out and said there is no benefit to masking healthy people. And they've already come out and said that asymptomatic people are not spreaders. I know that was a big news item back in March. It turns out it is not true. If you do not have symptoms, you're not a spreader. So I don't see the purpose of masking people, creating all this derisiveness. Also, for anyone
Thank you, Vidana. Thank you, Vidana. Your time's up. Thank you. Emily Stowe.
Hi, sorry, my name is Emily Scow.
Scow, thank you.
Lost my voice, Scow, thank you. Lost my voice because of the smoky air conditions. But I'm just questioning the mask mandate. I think there's a lot of questions about it. Number one, people in Hollister don't even realize there's a mask mandate that is under discussion. Just being out in the community and talking to people, they have no idea. And I agree with everything that Vidana said. Is our main focus right now should be opening up our downtown safely. We're killing it. We have worked so hard to bring business to downtown. With these smoky conditions, with California on fire, the smoke, you know, it's so sad to sit out in the parking lot and see restaurants trying to operate in these smoky conditions, waitresses having to run inside, outside with a mask on, and they're telling us that wearing a mask in these conditions are actually worse. I also just don't understand the mask mandate. If we're talking about a mandate to help against the COVID, why are we not doing hand sanitizing stations before entering stores? You can walk into Target, you can touch everything in Target, but as long as you have a mask on, there's no question. And if we're going to talk about mandating one thing, then why are we not mandating hand sanitizing, 6 feet apart, stores not being packed, essential businesses being the only ones open apparently? Why are we not talking about that and mandating that? So that's a question that I have. Also, if you are mandating, it says, I read the 3 pages in the mandate, that people that have a health condition, whether it be mental or medical, if they're not able to wear a mask, they're still allowed to go into the store. But you guys are not having store employees being trained on allowing people in the store. They are being confronted at the front door saying they're not allowed in, they have to get a manager, causing a scene with someone with a disability that can't mentally or medically wear a mask. But no one's training these employees, and it's just turning ugly out there. So again, I would say no on the mandate, revisit it. November, December, we'll probably have a lockdown again. Maybe that's something to revisit then, but as of now, it's September, it's 100 degrees outside and people are walking around with masks on because they just don't know. It's okay to take your mask off in a parking lot. It's okay to have your mask off outside. Back in March, I remember wearing my mask into stores because I didn't know what this virus was about. I was scared, but then common sense told me, keep my distance. If I'm sick, stay home. So, yeah. Anyway, revisit the mask mandate. I vote no. Thank you.
Courtney Evans?
Hi there, can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
She already spoke.
Perfect. Hi there.
Oh, no, not on this
I am calling to ask that you take this off of this and all future agendas. Right now, you are trying to act like a police officer. You are not empowered to enforce laws. You are
We're not.
practicing medicine without a license, which is illegal in all states of America. There is a pretty serious felony. A mask to prevent a viral transmission is a medical intervention that carries risks. To wear this mask, it would reduce my oxygen intake, increase my CO2, increase my risk of viral and bacterial fungal lung infections, fungal face infections, potential brain damage from reduced oxygen. A list of 131 scientific articles and reasons to avoid wearing a mask can be found online at www.revealingforlaw and my doctor's orders. If you are practicing medicine without a license, you can be sued for the damages that your advice might cause. And that another county or city has an enforcement, that is not a legitimate reason. I hereby again claim my own medical exemption. I'm not required by law to tell you my medical history, nor are forced fines upon me because of it. Medical professionals can only prescribe medical procedures, which means give advice. They are not legally allowed to mandate any medical procedures, which includes wearing a mask. You do not have medical power of attorney over me, nor has any of these people in this community hired you to be the doctors. By wearing a mask, you are compromising your own oxygen intake. I add into your brain and help you understand the rest of this. To help you understand the effects of your illegal discriminations, I would also like to read off a list of things that fall under a medical exemption. It is PTSD, it is asthma, allergies, anemia, fungal infections, blood clotting disorders, diabetes, autism, pre-existing lung conditions. And according to the OSHA air quality requirements, it is a necessity for humans to consume oxygen. Masks have been shown to reduce oxygen to 18% and increase the CO2 to over 10,000 ppm. Please vote no. Please stop wasting taxpayers and your constituents' time to continually put this on your agenda. The county of San Benito County has already taken this off the agenda, I think 6 times. So please use your time.
Thank you, Courtney.
Talk about things
Thank you.
that are more important.
Thank you,
Have a good day.
Courtney. I have no more speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Any comments from council?
Okay. Okay, I'll go first. This has been on my mind since the last meeting, and by the way, this meeting was called because of the last meeting. We said we were gonna have a public hearing. It's noticed in the paper. It's out there on Facebook. People should have known that this meeting tonight was for this item, so I don't buy the people didn't know. If you're really interested in an item, pay attention. That's what I'm saying. Okay. So, I was concerned about the city's ability to enforce it. That was the first on my mind. I've had discussions with code enforcement, and I've had discussions with police department, and they seem to think it could be a tool that they could use. I'll let them speak for themselves. I don't like to speak for other folks unless they say I can. But I did reach out. I also reached out to a local physician because I wanted his opinion. And he said, well, he understands the importance of it, but even he admitted that, well, maybe it's a little far-reaching. I appreciated his comments, and I took them to heart. I think we have a very high positivity rate, 9.2 as of today. And Monterey only has 11.2, and they got a lot of farm workers over there that have gotten COVID. That's why their numbers are driven so high. But why are our numbers so high at 9.2%? And they've been higher than everybody else. They've inched up, inched up, inched up. And do you see Santa Cruz? Do you see how their numbers have come down? Santa Cruz is actually going on to the next colored tier, I'll just say. Maybe people don't realize, but we're on the worst tier possible. Okay? There's a whole criteria set out of how you go into the next tier. I don't see us doing that unless the numbers come down. Okay, just a second. So here's what I have to consider. Sometimes I listen to the health department community. They just seem very insistent that face masks reduce the spread, along with the 6-foot distancing, along without the family gatherings. Look, I know it's tough, but tell you what, I don't want to get anybody sick of my family, an elder, and they pass away. I haven't seen my aunt for 4 months, 5 months, except for yelling at her from the street, because that's how much I don't want to give it to anybody. And remember, I already had it, but I tell you what, I'm not looking forward to get it again. Okay, you notice lately on TV, I watch TV, there's a lot of commercials. Boy, they really bumped up the commercials on the face covering. Do your part. That's what they're saying, do your part. And they must have spent a whole bunch of money because it's all over the TV. And there's a reason for that. Some folks don't even know they could be a super spreader. We know kids are super spreaders because they bring everything home under the sun when they come home from school. They're super spreaders, and they don't know sometimes. So that's a little scary for me, people walking around not knowing they have it. They might not have symptoms, but they got it. So I mentioned that we're in the highest tier, and that must be met. There must be criteria met to progress to the next tier. I honestly think that this would be a great step in the right direction to reopen schools. We get the numbers down, or the schools aren't going to reopen, and they're the highest priority for me, over the businesses and over everything else, because our kids need to get back to school, in the classroom. This should be a top priority. I think we need to work on it. I support any and every private business that declares a mask requirement to enter their business. Maybe you don't understand what the private businesses are faced with. They have to deal with workman's comp. Workman comps is telling them, you better get those employees covered up and sanitized. They do all that store cleaning, and they have every right to require somebody to wear a mask to enter their private business. And if you don't want to, don't go in. How do I go against Dr. Fauci and his persistent message that masks slow the spread? He's a scientist. I can't just discount what he's saying, and all the other health professionals. So tell me this, I serve on the Agency for Area Aging. How do I look those seniors in the face when I go to a meeting or I go on Zoom and they're all wondering what the heck? They're at the highest risk, and we don't want to support them by putting on a mask. I like John Freeman's statement in San Juan Bautista. By the way, kudos for them. I'll shop there every day of the week. John Freeman's statement, I'm for face mask, I'm for social distancing, and I'm for trying to fight this virus. And that's what I want to say. And I gave it a lot of thought. I tried to go with the no fines, but I just can't do that. Now, I would be willing to have a $100 fine across the board with no escalator. I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to zing them. I want them to put a mask on. So I'm going to send the message by supporting the penalty for not wearing a face covering. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Lenore. Any other council members like to speak?
Yes.
Go ahead, Councilmember Spencer.
Like Carol said, I've looked into this. I've been thinking about this because I did want this to be brought back up. And again, I will say that I'm going to vote against it because I will go with $100 fine across the board, but not violations being $200 and $500. If somebody does not want to wear a mask, then it's not my place to tell them they have to wear one. If they walk up to a store, which I know happens, because I did, I walked up to a store, forgot my mask. I was told to go back to my car and get a mask, or don't come in. I turned around, I went back and got a mask. I go into the stores. I see people in the stores without masks. I'm not going to approach them. If the grocery stores allow people to come in without a mask, that's on them. It shouldn't be on us to mandate what they have to do. If a small business does not require people to wear masks in their business, that's on them too. That's their bad. It's not our bad. I do not want to put extra work on our police force, our fire department, our code enforcement, anybody. I look at this ordinance, and it's not a law, it's an ordinance. But I look at this ordinance and I see things that just don't feel right. You're creating dissension among neighbors. You're creating more problem than what we have. We are already a divided community thanks to certain people in our community. This will divide it even more. And I just can't do that. We need to bring this community back together. We need to stop the spread. And everybody does. I wear masks. I don't want to, but I do wear a mask. I took it off now to talk. I am not going to force people that don't want to wear a mask outside to wear a mask. And here's one of the reasons why, and I said this to somebody and he understood it. If I'm out in my front yard, I'm out in public. If I'm with 5 other people, whether it be family members or in my neighbors, and we're talking and none of us are wearing masks, and my neighbor across the street has a grudge against me, they're going to call the police on me, and the police are going to show up. I will not appreciate that. That will cause more problems in my neighborhood than anything else. I'm not going to go on. I'm not going to preach. I'm just going to say that I'm voting no against this ordinance. Again, I will say this is not a law. It's an ordinance. And that's all I have to say.
You. Anybody else like to speak?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilmember Sanders.
Thank you. I think it's no secret that I made this pretty clear last time we talked about this, that this issue, it frustrates me. And it has been on my mind since we last talked about it. It's been on my mind since the very first time we talked about it, I'll be honest with you. I guess what frustrates me the most is how politicized this issue has become. And I don't want to blame, I really don't want to sit here and place blame on one group or another. I just don't want. I want to say my piece of mind, and I want to tell you what I think is the right thing to do, and then move forward. But I have to point out, like I did last time, how disappointed I am with the actions of San Benito County Board of Supervisors. I think that if we were going to do this, then we should have all communicated better, and we should have all been on the same side. It doesn't do anybody good not to do that. It doesn't make any sense, and I really do feel that they were influenced by politics more than what the right thing to do is for their constituents, which was what they were elected to do. I think that our council has been very supportive of business and the community. If you look at our track record, our voting record, you will see that. And bottom line is, if you pass a policy, there needs to be some type of consequence. I have faith in our staff to execute the ordinance in a fair manner. And even more so after hearing that Councilmember Lenore did her homework and she spoke to them. Thank you for that. I honestly mean that. Is our community doing well? I just don't see that many people in the stores not wearing masks, but the numbers are not reflecting that. They're just not reflecting that. We had another fatality in our community today. And I just think it's gonna get worse. I have to side with common sense, logic, science, medical professionals. And I took an oath to protect the public, and I really believe in what they're saying, and that passing a mask ordinance is going to do just that. You know, if there's any potential that we did not pass a mask ordinance and things got worse, then I couldn't live with myself. It would weigh very heavy on my heart. You know, I'm not going to be that person, especially being in public office, that took the wrong side. When we look back on history, I think it's reckless and irresponsible to be that person. And it saddens me that we have those people here as elected officials in our community. If you don't want to wear a mask, then don't wear one. But don't go into our stores and don't put our community, our people that work for us, their health and their safety at risk. Just don't do it. Stay home and send someone else to the store. Find other ways to protect your physical health, your mental health. That's my take on it, and of course, I'm going to support this. I didn't want to have this discussion because I was so frustrated with the county, but if it comes across my desk, if it comes across something that I have to decide, I took an oath to protect the people, and I'm going to do just that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Resendez. My opinion on this mask requirement has been the same since day one. I want to thank Councilmember Resendez, Councilmember Lenora. Ms. Lenora, I think you laid out so well, especially the part about our children going back to school. And I want to thank the council members in San Juan Bautista. They were the true leaders here. They didn't hesitate for a moment to pass it. And I really appreciate that type of leadership. I'm highly disappointed in the county reluctance to take the lead, especially when the health department is under their control. I can remember in the early days, we as a community were working together so well to keep our numbers down. I remember other cities, council members calling me asking how we were doing it in San Juan Bautista or Hollister, and how we were able to keep our numbers low, and how it was that with the low numbers, we were gonna reopen sooner than they all were. And they were just asking, how are we doing? And I kept telling them, we are working as a community. It's been great. Everybody's participating, doing their part. And then it all changed. Then the fighting started, the misinformation started, accusations started. What was the result of it? Well, today we had another death. Although people feel nobody's dying in our community, they are. This week we had 2 in total that died. From the beginning, we've had 10 in our community that have died. In our country, we've had 200,000 people that have died. And I remember hearing those saying, this is no worse than the normal flu, where 40, 50,000 people die each year. And we're not even done. We're headed towards the worst part of this pandemic as winter comes upon us. And it's a shame that here we are still finding reasons to avoid wearing a face cover that can help prevent someone else. Forget yourself if you don't care, but prevent someone else from getting the infection by the simple measure of wearing a face cover. Think about that. You might be protecting somebody else's life by wearing a face cover. Instead, we're arguing about how they're not effective and every other thing that somebody can bring up, which are not true. We have people saying we need to open our businesses. Well, guess what? Most of our businesses are open. Very few are closed. But at the rate we're going, what we're going to see happen in our own community is more businesses being shut down. Because this pandemic, this virus is going to keep spreading in our community as long as we have this attitude that you cannot make me do something I don't want to do. That's a shame. We were the leaders, and now we're in the back of the pack. Santa Clara County tomorrow is going to the next level. Santa Cruz is going to the next level. Their nail salons are going to be opening up tomorrow, along with other businesses. Ours aren't. We're nowhere near it. Matter of fact, I got the update today. The positivity rate is actually 13% in our community. 13%, which is extremely high. And yet here we are still having these same conversations about the Constitution and everything else, and every way possible to keep from wearing a face cover. A simple face cover to protect each other, to beat this virus. If we all wore the face covers, if we all kept our distance, if we all did our little piece to protect each other, we'd be done with this virus and we'd be back to normal, and our kids as Ms. Lenore pointed out, could be back in school. But instead, it's become political, and lives are being lost with each and every day that we procrastinate and we make additional excuses, and that's a shame. I will never be part of that. I've said from the very beginning, our job is to make sure our community is as safe as possible, and I'm gonna stay to it and make sure we're doing our part in our community. So I wanna thank Councilmember Lenore and Councilmember Sanders again for your words. I think they're very important. And again, the council and Salmo Batista, you guys are awesome over there. You showed real leadership. With that, is there a motion on this item?
Mayor, will we consider the fine amount, or I really not interested in the escalator on the second and third offense. I wanna try just $100 for now.
Ms. Lenore, you can make the motion as you please.
Okay. All right. So I move that we read by title only, waive the full reading, and introduce an ordinance amending Title 8, Health and Safety. Health and Safety. I forgot my mic. I'm going to start over for the benefit, okay? I moved that we read by title only, waive full reading, and introduce an ordinance amending Title 8, Health and Safety, adding Chapter 8.05 face coverings to the Hollister Municipal Code, and adopting the California Department of Public Health's guidance for the use of face coverings to be enforceable by administrative citation. And I'll now note that I'd like to make a friendly amendment to the proposed ordinance so that we just utilize one fee of $100 and not an escalator to $200 and $500. And schedule a second reading and adoption of the ordinance for the September 21st, 2020, the September 21st, 2020 City Council meeting.
Thank you, Councilmember Lenore. Is there a second?
I will second that, Mr. Mayor.
There is a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against?
No.
Motion carries 3-1. Thank you very much, everyone. We're going to move now to item F5.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Item F5 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hollister approving an appropriation from the general fund reserves in an annual amount not to exceed $9,500 and authorizing an agreement with DocuSign for e-signature Enterprise Pro Edition and adopting a digital electronic signature policy for the City of Hollister. Now, this e-signature would not be usable for resolutions or ordinances, minutes, things that need to be kept for legislative history. But what it will do is make it more possible for internal and some external documents to be signed. Because of all the teleconferencing, everyone is not attending the meetings. We're not able to get all the signatures we need. Not just the city clerk's office, but all departments have expressed that they could use this. So the reason I'm asking for not to exceed $9,500 is because it's about 5, Paul? I think it's about 5. I don't know if you saw the 2 attachments I put in there, but we're going to start with the $500 envelopes. We don't know how much the city's going to use because we've never tried or used this system before. But we want to have the option that if we go over the 500, we can either pay per envelope, and I'm not exactly sure how this is all going to work out, but $8.80 each, or they'll give us an option. Like, let's say in 6 months they discover that we're already almost through our 500, then we would have the option to move to the 1,000, which would be the not to exceed the higher price, which is why I'd like to have that money sitting there just in case we decide that that's what we need. But in the meantime, I'd like to start with half and just see how we do. I know police has said that they can use it, and I think all departments are interested, so it's, even though I'm requesting it, it's going to be for everybody in the city to be able to use.
Thank you. Is there any questions from council?
Not necessarily a question, quick comment, if I may.
Go ahead, sir.
I just want to point out again, Christine, this is another example of how competent our staff is and how you guys are always ahead. I really appreciate it, not just with this, but you've done that with our filing, our paperwork, Paul, with all of the technology. you know, it's just, I'm just really proud to be part of this team, and I'm very grateful to have you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I do have something to say. I love DocuSign. I do.
Oh.
I have been using it. It is so easy. It makes signing contracts and papers that I have to sign, not through the city, but through the high school. We use it at the high school, and we have been using it for a while. It's amazing. I definitely think you guys will love it.
The county really helped me out by showing me what they're using and showed me how they're using it, and that really inspired me to bring it back to the group. Paul tried to do it about a year ago, maybe. Yeah. So I'm glad. I'm glad.
It's
I'm
fun.
excited. Yeah.
It's fun.
Thank you. Do we have any speaker cards on this item?
I have no speaker cards, Mr. Mayor, and I have no hands raised.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we accept resolution number 2020-173, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hollister approving an appropriation from the general fund reserves at an annual amount not to exceed $9,500, authorizing an agreement with DocuSign Incorporated for e-signature Enterprise Pro Edition.
Thank you. Motion, is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're going to move to item
Thank you.
F6.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, Bob Martin, Del Campo, Fire Chief, Hollister City Fire. Item F6 is Resolution 2020-174, making a recommendation to surplus the fire apparatus Ferreira Telesquirt. It's a 1997 piece of equipment, 10 years in service frontline, 10 years in service reserve. It's actually 23 years old. We've tried to prolong its life by giving repairs and maintenance. It's done its job. Right now, it's been plagued with continuous maintenance, and it's costing quite a bit of money. It's rather expensive for an antiquated piece of equipment like that. Like I said earlier, it has been plagued with service issues, but it's done its job. And this is just a recommendation for council to go ahead and allow us to surplus it.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from council?
No.
Do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speaker cards, and I have no hands raised, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution number 220-174 as stated.
Thank you for the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll move to item F7.
One moment, Mr. Mayor. Tina, please go ahead.
I'm here, yes.
F7, please go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor Velasquez and City Council members. Tina Garza, Recreation Supervisor. This resolution before you will approve an agreement with San Benito County to offer drive-in movie events at the Veterans Memorial Park parking lot. And the parking lot is located where staff can encourage social distancing and provide safe guidelines to entertain and engage residents. The City of Hollister Recreation Department would like to offer drive-in movie events that are free to the public. Are any questions?
I have a question, Tina.
Yes.
Councilor Lenore?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
They'll stay in their vehicles? Is that the plan?
Yes.
So,
They are required to stay in their vehicles.
okay.
The only time they'll be able to come out is if they need to use the restroom
Sure.
and face coverings are required.
And then somebody on staff will be there to monitor that?
Yes, we will have staff out during the whole event.
Okay. Thank you, Tina.
You're welcome.
Comment if I may, Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, sir.
Again, I'm gonna beat this drum all night. I did bring this up at a city council meeting. I had a conversation with the city manager the next day and Miss Tina Garza. They had already been working on this. It's just another example of how our staff is looking around, bringing things back to our city that are gonna benefit our community. I'm very excited about this, and again, I'm just grateful for Tina Garza and our rec department for how they pivoted during these times. Thank you.
Couldn't agree with you more, sir.
Mr. Mayor, one more small comment, please.
Go ahead.
I want to thank the county of San Benito for entering into this agreement with us. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Do we have any speaker cards on this item?
I have none, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I will make the motion to adopt resolution number 2020-175.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're going to move on to item F8.
Mayor, real quick, I just wanted to thank Tina on this item. She had to go through a lot of hoops. She wanted to have this out weeks ago, and I just really appreciate her dedication to get this out for our community.
She never lets us down.
Thank you, City Miller. The next item is recreations. Good evening, Mayor Velasquez and City Council members. Tina Garza. Items F8 and F9 are two grants that staff applied to in actually August of 2019. And unfortunately, the City of Hollister was not awarded either grant. But recently, the California Department of Parks and Recreation Office of Grants and Local Services announced the opportunity for agencies to apply for round 4 of the statewide park program. Staff recommends by roll call vote a resolution approving the application for the statewide park program grant funds. And if these projects are approved, the grant would help in developing a park at Fire Station 2 and to develop the Leatherback property.
Thank you. Is that it?
Yes, that's it.
Thank you. Is there any questions from council?
I do have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Tina Garza. Then the two grants that we applied for, they were not approved, and they were essentially for the same thing. Is that correct?
It was wrong.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
We have recently worked with a project manager with the state Parks and Recreation Office, and to help guide us in maybe changing some of the language and information and letting us know what some of our faults were and how we can improve it so that when we do apply in December, we'll have a better opportunity to maybe be awarded the grant.
And that was my next question. I remember part of that had a community center. Is that still part of the plan? And was there any feedback on that at all?
Yeah, that's the Leatherback property is where we were considering the community center. And the feedback, are you asking feedback from the community or feedback from the state department?
Well, it depends. I guess I just want to know what was the overall feedback for having the community center, and is that going to be considered for this grant?
The feedback from the community, the community center, is what community members are seeking, just because we requested a gymnasium, which is needed here in our community. There was a field lot, a soccer field, a roller rink, so the community was in favor of the amenities that we wanted to include at the park. The grant office, there was some information that we were missing, so we will now be able to provide it the second go around.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? Do we have any speaker cards on this item?
I have no speaker cards, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we accept resolution number 2020-176, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hollister approving the application for the statewide park development and community revitalization program grant funds.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
They wanted a roll call vote on it.
Oh,
Mr. Mayor.
that's correct.
Correct. Roll call vote. Thank you
Yes.
very much, sir.
Mayor Velasquez,
Yes.
Councilmember Resendez,
Yes.
Councilmember Spencer, Vice Mayor Spencer, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Councilmember Lenore?
Aye.
Thank you. That passes unanimously.
Thank you. We're going to move now to item F9.
Tina Garza again, council. This one before us is similar to item 8, and this one would be under the Leatherback property. And then this is also, we recommend that the city council adopt by a roll call vote.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speaker cards, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we accept resolution number 2020-177. I got lost.
I'm sorry, say it again.
I make a motion that we accept resolution number 2020-177, a resolution of the Council of the City of Hollister approving the application for statewide park development and community revitalization great funds.
Thank you very much. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Roll call.
Roll call vote.
Forgot again. Thank you.
Mayor Velazquez?
Yes.
Councilmember Lenore?
Aye.
Councilmember Resendez?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Spencer?
Yes.
Thank you. Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to item F10.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. Item F10 is a resolution that will designate Synagro Incorporated as the lowest responsive bidder for removing 2,000 dry tons of sludge from Pond 2 at the Industrial Wastewater Treatment Plant and appropriating $1.5 million from Fund 665, which is the Sewer Industrial Enterprise Fund. I apologize on the financial impact section. I did not put the fund balance down there, and that's because things were in flux up until last week. I am happy to report that I was able to get San Benito Foods to fully execute the 2020 discharge permit, which obligates them to pay the complete cost of this item. The $1.5 million broken down is the bid amount was for 1.158, and our consultant recommended a healthy contingency fee because sludge estimation is an inexact science. And as you are aware, we need to do a clean closure. We need to get it all out. So we went ahead and put a $30,000 or 30% contingency fee to that amount, and we included $60,000 to pay for the consultant to supervise the work.
Any questions from council?
I do have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So what you're stating, Mr. Chambliss, is that San Benito County Foods essentially agreed to remove sludge from the ponds?
San Benito Foods is required to remove the sludge under the executed discharge permit, and they executed option 1 under the permit, and they have already deposited $1 million with the city to accomplish this work, and they pledged to pay the remaining costs. We actually don't expect it to come in at 1.5. We just need to have that contingency there in case it has to. There's
Mike?
several variables.
Mike, can you hold on? Can you hold on for, Mike, can you hold on for 1 second? Carol Lenore wants to recluse herself.
Well, I asked, the city attorney has advised that I recuse myself because I'm the neighbor. Well, I'm a neighbor to the San Benito Foods, and it's a little related there, so
Correct.
I'll step away. I don't want to mess it up.
Thank you, Ms. Lenore.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Okay, so you're saying that we're going to get $1.5 million, but the bid might come in underneath that, is what you're saying, essentially.
The bill may be less than that, and that would be the amount that they pay. they're not obligated to pay the full 1.5 if we don't spend it.
So how much are the taxpayers gonna be paying to remove that sludge?
0.
Oh, perfect. So then San Benito Foods is covering the entire cost of the sludge removal and the taxpayers are not gonna pay any of it?
Correct.
Awesome. And nobody lost their jobs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? All right. Is there any speaker cards on this item?
I have no speaker cards, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mike, I just want to say thank you for following this through. It's great we're finally going to get this sludge removed from that pond, and so we can move on. So thank you very much again for everyone involved in these conversations. Is there a motion on this item?
I will make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that we adopt resolution number 2020-178, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hollister designating Cengaro Incorporation as the lowest bidder for removing 2,000 dry ton sludge from the industrial wastewater treatment plant pond to and appropriating $534 million from Fund 665 Sewer Industrial Enterprise. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Bring back Councilmember Lenore, and we'll move to item F11.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're ready.
Let's move on to item F12.
As the council recalls, prior to the summer break, we went out to bid to do some modernization improvements out of the Public Works yard. In a component of that project was backup electrical generation for the animal control facility. This resolution will award a contract to Manzo Construction Incorporated, a local business, for the completion of the corporation yard improvements, and will provide a supplemental appropriation of $135,000 for construction management and additional costs on the emergency generator, slight improvements to the locker room, and for project supervision by Kinley Horn Incorporated through our on-call engineering agreement. The bid for the generator exceeded the grant amount. If you all recall, you had a grant for $50,000 for the emergency generator for animal control, and the bid amount came in at $100,000. So we need an extra $50,000 to cover that part of the project. There is about $30,000 in there to upgrade the fire safety of the locker room. We went ahead and upgraded the electrical in there from minimum code to a heavier gauge wire so it stayed cooler. And also we replaced the normal plywood with fireproof plywood so that there's no chance of there ever being any issues inside of those locker rooms. And then finally, there's money, a management cost of approximately $60,000 to supervise the completion of the project with Kinley. The majority of the additional funds are coming from the water fund. $50,000 is coming from the general fund to cover the animal control portion of the expense.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
Hi, more of a statement.
Go ahead, sir.
I'm a little bit concerned, Mike. Sorry, Mr. Chambliss. I didn't realize that the entire grant was not covering it. And when I hear we're taking $50,000 out of our general fund, I don't know if right now is the best time to do it. So what are the stipulations of the grant? Do we have to do this? Do you think are we gonna lose? And then how much more are we getting from the grant aside from the $50,000?
I would defer to the police chief because he's the one who handled the grant portion. I just know the grant is for $50,000 and the cost to provide the emergency generation.
Yes, if I may, Councilmember Resendez, the grant is for $50,000 for specifically for a generator at animal control. If we don't spend the money on that, we would just have to give the grant back to a Homeland Security grant, or request a revision to be used in some other fashion, but that would have to go through approval process to obtain that possibility.
I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing you. I'm sorry. How long do we have before we have to make that decision?
The grant was approved earlier this year. I think we do have the remainder of this year to make that decision. But as far as the deadline, I would have to get back to you as far as a drop deadline to do something with the grant money or not.
Okay, and then what's the total amount of the grant?
The grant for the generator is $50,000, and this has come in at 43. I believe it's 43 or 46,000 more additional money that is needed according to the bids that came in.
I'm just a little bit concerned about that. I'm wondering if you can go back and look at your budget and see if you can move other things around and then come back at a later date. That would probably be better for me, just because we don't know what our finances are going to look like pretty soon here.
Is there any other comments or questions?
I'm for moving forward. I'm just a forward kind of gal. I'd like to move forward. We're gonna do it anyway. I'd like to just do it now. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speaker cards, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do you have a question? I thought I heard Mr. Chambliss say something about upsizing some wiring and some other things to make this work. What kind of cost increases are we talking about?
The total cost increase for the fireproof plywood and the 12 gauge wiring instead of 14 gauge wiring came in around $30,000.
So I think that does sound kind of high here. I'd like to get more information on this. At $30,000 increase for 12 gauge wiring from 14 gauge and some fireproof plywood seems extremely high. How many square feet of plywood are we talking about here?
Both buildings that are being constructed currently under the approved contract.
Do you happen to know how many square feet of the fireproof talking about?
Off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I want to, the cost of a piece of plywood, non-fire, is $32 a sheet right now. It's very expensive. Plywood's very expensive right now.
You're absolutely right, Councilmember Lenore. Very, very expensive. I wonder if we can just, I do have some concerns about those increases also, what we're talking about. In a commercial setting, usually wiring is set at 12 gauge. I'm wondering how that would have been designed at 14 gauge for a commercial setting. And I'm surprised at the amount of extra dollars for the fire proof and the plywood. So I do personally would like more information on this myself. Take a better look at this and see what we can do to save some more money on this. Would that be possible, Mr. Chambliss?
Anything's possible.
I mean, time-wise, how much time do you need? I mean, how much time to see what else we can do here to save some dollars and still get this project done?
Well, the project's been bid, so if we're going to change what the bid is, we kind of got to start all over.
Yeah.
And that probably, I mean, it could definitely be done. I'm not sure we're going to wind up saving anything once we go through another bid process and change the plans and specs that we've already paid for to incorporate the changes to try to save money. So, I mean, Anything's possible.
Well, let me ask you this way. The awarding of this contract has to be done by what date? Is there a date that it has to be accepted by us?
I would say it would need to be awarded in the next meeting, or I would need to come to you and reject all the bids in the first meeting in October, because at that point, the bids would be 3 months old, and they can't hold their prices.
Gotcha. Could you bring us information about how many square footage of this plywood we're talking about and what we're looking at as far as the 14 gauge to 12 gauge wiring? By the next meeting?
Sure.
Would that be possible, so we can do that and just see what else? Hopefully, we can find a way to save some money. Is there any other questions from council?
I do have a quick question.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chavez, if we were to scrap this, so to speak, as you said, and we were to go and put it out for bid again, change some things around, put it out for bid, would there be an additional cost associated with that too? And if so, about how much would you think that would be?
There would, about $10,000 to $15,000.
Okay, thank you.
And once again, just a little reminder, this was to give us some female locker room facilities out at the yard, which we do not have. So hopefully we don't run into a legal problem between now and then. We haven't so far, but that obviously is my biggest fear, is that we wind up in a legal mess.
And why do we not have female locker rooms out there?
Because the facility was built in the 70s, and they didn't think about that back then.
So would there be a way to convert that one locker room, and that way that we can accommodate the female officers as well?
We don't have a locker room at the facility. We have some lockers in each restroom, and they're not ADA accessible at all.
So you're saying that we don't have specifically just a men's locker room, we just don't have a designated area for both, one for the men and one for the women, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I think that's important. We need to point that out to the public as to not confuse them. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, any other questions from council? Could we look at, again, Mike, you said at the next meeting or the meeting after you would need the time? I'd like to see what we're talking about here.
I'll talk to the consultant in the morning, and we'll see if we can get on the agenda for the next meeting.
For the next meeting, okay, what is the date on that? I don't have my calendar in front of me.
October 5th.
October 5th?
No, the next meeting is the 21st.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed the September 21st.
Our next meeting is September 21st.
Give me more time, huh, Councilmember LaVerne? Thank you.
And I think Mike said he needed to have the information prior to October 5th. Correct, Mike?
All right. Do we have any speaker cards on this item?
I have no speaker cards, Mr.
Is it
Mayor.
going to be on for the 21st? Did I hear that right? It's the 21st, right?
If we can make a motion
21st?
for that, yes. But I'm just asking if there's any speaker
September
cards for-
21st is the next meeting, and then I think Mike said he needed his answer by October 5th
Okay.
to not lose the pricing. Is that, I think that's what he said.
Thank you.
I have no speaker cards, Mr. Mayor, and no hands raised.
If we can get a motion to, for a date certain of September 21st.
I'm prepared to make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
I make a motion that we move resolution number 2020-179 to a date certain of, what was it?
September 21st.
21st.
September 21st.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone. We will move now to F12.
This item is an appropriation of $30,000 from Fund 6 with a fund balance of $8.3 million to purchase and install a water chemical induction mixer and controller from G3 Engineering for the domestic wastewater treatment plant. Recently, there's been a change in management out of the domestic wastewater treatment plant, and there have been many surprises. This is one of those surprises. Apparently, our existing public mixer failed in 2012, and staff have been hand mixing since then. This has led to higher chemical costs because it's not being done at the correct amounts, and chemicals are being wasted. So the plan is to go ahead and get this piece of equipment back up and running so the plant is running as it was designed to run.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council?
You have the money, Mr. Chambliss, in your budget to pay for this?
No.
What?
Thank you.
Any other questions from council?
This is out of the 660.
Is there any speaker cards on this item?
I have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion for this item?
I make a motion that we accept resolution number 202180.
I'm sorry, I said 2020-180?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll now move on to item F13.
F13 will approve the plans and specification and direct staff to receive sealed bids for and appropriate $914,000 to construct a fire protection system for the electrical room and other fire protection improvements at the domestic wastewater treatment plant. As you remember from our previous discussion, our insurance company identified the electrical room as a single point of failure for the system and directed us to get fire protection installed in that room. At the last time it was before the council requested specific changes to the plans and specification, which were completed, which include automated electrical shutoffs if fire is detected, and also a fire alarm system for the entire facility. And for the record, how this place was ever constructed, when it was constructed without any of this, I do not know. But anyway, the goal here is to go ahead and get the plans and specs adopted and approved so we can get off the bid and go ahead and get some safety going and reduce our risk out there at the domestic wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Mr. Chambliss, I do have some questions, and you know I have concerns about this project, and I am glad to see the fire safety measures in all the additional buildings. I was pretty surprised to find none of the buildings had any monitoring involved in their buildings. So that part I'm in total agreement with. My question is, if you take out the suppression system in that room, what does the cost come down to? Do we have that broken out, separated?
Approximately $350,000.
So that system alone is $350,000. Do you have a detailed breakout of all this for us?
I do have it. No, the suppression system is a $600,000 estimated cost. And once again, until we don't know what specific costs are, as we saw on that last item. We thought the generator was going to come in at 50, but it came in at 100. And so our engineer consultant has said that the suppression system should be 600,000, and all the alarm improvements and other electrical shutoffs will be an additional 300 or 350 on top of that.
Okay, that's the engineer's estimates?
Correct.
And the conversation, the last part of this conversation that I wanted to have was with the insurance company to be clear on what they're asking for. As I pointed out, the one issue that I saw was the shutoff system with the fire alarm to the electrical equipment, disconnecting all power, which would kill, of course, all, or de-energize the equipment, which would stop as far as the fuel for the fire. But I never got the clarity from the insurance part of this on what they were looking for exactly, other than a fire system? Does that mean a fire monitoring? I'm still not sold on the system stopping fire. I absolutely believe in the shut-off system, very important, and I absolutely believe in the monitoring of each of the buildings, very important. I just wanted a little more clarity on that because I'm still not comfortable with that part of it.
Isn't the shut-off system to terminate the ignition source?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally in favor of that. Yeah.
The fuel is actually the insulation and the equipment in the room. So if the fire has started, there needs to be some sort of active suppression to put out the fire so it doesn't spread in the room, correct?
Yeah. The electrical equipment, again, when there's a short in the electrical system, that is going to burn because of the electricity moving through it. The equipment itself is not going to, it's obviously metal, but it will burn if there's power going through the system. That's why the shutoff itself kicks down the power, so there's no more basically energy going in, continuing to burn. I'm just still not 100% convinced on this other system to shut off the rest of or to starve the oxygen to put out any additional fires. I don't see the other parts of that when I walk the facility. And the other question I had for you, if you look at the equipment room, the electrical room, and then the room adjoining to it, how is that being closed off? What is the plan for that part? That part of it?
The suppression system includes automated dampers and there's alarm systems obviously that have to be installed to warn anybody in the room that the oxygen is about to go away, and they have so much time to get out before the suppression system kicks in and starts displacing the oxygen. But I will defer to Charlie because I see him at the podium.
Yeah, no, but I'm talking about the between the two rooms, there's several voids, openings. Is that, how's that filled in? How does that keep it from jumping to the next room? I believe it's the pump room is the next room, wasn't it? I don't remember exactly.
The air compressor room's on the other side of a block wall.
Is it? But there were some openings between those two walls.
Yes, and those get sealed as part of the project.
That's what I was asking for. That does get sealed off. Okay. And the last part, again.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. I just wanted to, again, I want to get a little more clarification from the insurance company. Did you ever set up that appointment with the insurance company to be exactly clear on what they're looking for?
I did not, because I have a letter that said that they wanted a fire suppression.
Okay. Okay, Councilmember Resendez?
Thank you. I know we've been talking about this item for a while, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this because we've been talking about it for so long, but I just wanted to get clarification from you, Mr. Chavez. This was included in your budget, correct?
No, we do not include anything like this in the budget. All these extra costs we've been directed to keep out of the budget so that they can be considered by you one at a time at the time of their need. We do not budget any extra money for major repairs in any of the budgets of the city.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the other council members?
I do have something I'd like to say. We have a expert in fire at the podium. I'd like to hear from him. Charlie?
Hi, Mr. Mayor, fellow council members. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. They did request the fire suppression system, and you got to remember there's 4 different types of fires. There's a Class A fire, Class B fire, Class C fire, and a Class D fire. A Class A is ordinary combustible. You could put out with water. Class B is your flammable liquids. Class C is your energized electrical. As soon as you take away the energy or the energized electrical for the Class C fire, it turns it into an ordinary combustible, which is a Class A fire. Therefore, it keeps burning. The only difference is our fire suppression techniques. So we can't hit it with water while it's charged. We have to use a dry chem. But once the fire is de-energized and shut down, then we'll be able to go extinguish fire because it continues to burn and smolder as a Class A fire, as ordinary combustible. So just because the power does get shut off, it still continues to burn. I just want to make sure we understood that part right there. just because the power gets shut off, it's still gonna continue to burn if the wires are smoldering and everything, the components with that too. And it'll burn right through the walls and it just follows it through, so I just wanted to add that into that also.
Thanks for it. And I'm glad you came up, because I do have a question. You answered part of that question there, and you pointed out, and that was the next part I was gonna ask, is the gas system I don't know how long that goes for, and then once that's over, then you'll have a sprinkler system in the building also?
No, that was just the initial gas to extinguish the Class C energized electrical fire suppression system. So you kind of want to do it as clean as possible, a clean room extinguishing agent. That way it doesn't ruin and damage all the equipment that's in there. You want to try to prevent as much damage, minimal damage to that. So they'll hit it with that. That way it's easy to get in there and fix without all the water damage that shocks and blows it and spreads the damage more. I mean, if we need to, it's already out and shut off, then we'll need to do what we need to do because power will be secure. So we'll need to shut it off with either our dry chem. We'll need to extinguish it with either our dry chems, or if we need it, we have a hydrant, we'll use copious amounts of water to put it out at a safe distance.
Right, so I guess my question is, how long does the gas system last for?
They calculate it, and it's however long until the extinguishing agent, depends how big the system is. So they should have it for that size room that they have it. It'll hit it and knock it down. But that's why it's important that we put some gas monitors in there too, I believe, and that was part of it too, because it displaces oxygen. So we don't want to have it go off when someone's in the room, because then you'll have another emergency. They have to let them know to get out real quick to displace the oxygen and air it out. So they're calculated to extinguish and then some with that system. So it's just not the bare minimum. They'll make sure it's out. It's calculated that way. They don't just do the bare minimum. Okay, here's a couple 2A 10 BCs. That should knock it down. It's a sufficient amount.
Okay. So the other part, I'm glad to hear that they added all the other buildings as far as the monitoring. What is your view as far as the future for sprinklers in the other buildings, or your feelings towards that in the future? What's your concerns?
You know, we could plan for it, but I think we don't do a proprietary system, and I think we should be able to get in there and have someone be able to just bid to put a fire suppression system, a clean room systems in there. There is agencies, but not use a proprietary system, and we should be able to get it at I would guess a way decent amount. Okay. But it's something we work up to. So right now, the way it is, we're at a good, comfortable position where we'll have it alarmed and monitored. So if anything does happen, we're going to get out there within a few minutes.
Okay. I'm definitely glad that we're doing that. That was the one part that caught my attention right away. I'm really pleased to hear that was included this time, and the shut-off system. Without the shut-off system, it really doesn't make a difference whether we have a suppression system or not. So
yeah, thank you for your support and bringing that to our attention, because I hadn't known about it either, so I appreciate that too.
Okay, thank you. I really do appreciate that. Councilmember Resendez, do you have a comment?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so thank you again, everyone, for answering the questions. I do feel much more comfortable with the system now, knowing it's protecting the entire treatment plant. Okay. Now, did I ask for any public comment already, City Clerk?
Yes, you did, Mr. Mayor, and we have no speaker cards, no speakers.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there a motion on this item?
I move that we adopt resolution number 2020-181 as presented.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll move on to item
14.
Item F14 is an appropriation of $88,000 from Fund 660, which has a fund balance of $8.3 million for the repair of the contract basin at the domestic wastewater treatment plant. During a recent inspection, some of the cells were empty, and I observed cracks that apparently go all the way through the wall into other cells, and That's evidenced by fluid leaking through the crack, through the wall, into the other basement. This is a alarming development because if it goes unrepaired and the steel inside of the concrete starts to rust, it will expand and it will blow the walls apart, and it will be a major repair. We located a contractor who was responsive, and it was Contact Engineering, and they said it will cost $68,000 to replace or to repair all the cracks in the contract cases. They need to be routed and then grouted and then sealed to prevent the fluids from getting into the rebar.
Okay, is there any questions from council?
No.
No.
Do we have any speaker cards?
No, Mr. Mayor?
Okay, is there a motion on this item?
I make a motion that we accept resolution number 2020-182, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hollister appropriating $67,539 with funds from Fund 660 for the repair of the contact basin at the domestic wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you very much. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll move to item F16.
15.
I'm sorry, F15. Thank you.
So my last item is a resolution, a supplemental appropriation of $130,000 from Fund 662, which is stormwater. It has a fund balance of $4.9 million to complete a stormwater resource plan by the Wallace Group, our on-call engineering consultant when it comes to stormwater. Recently, council authorized us to apply for a Prop 1 stormwater grant from the state of California, and we completed that task, and we applied for $5.2 million in grant funds. These would be to conduct the CDS, or the stormwater filtration unit installations that were required to complete, and also will fund portions of the Pond 2 stormwater treatment project. In order to qualify for that $5.2 million in grant money, we need to complete this plan. So that's what the item is before you tonight to consider, is to go ahead and authorize the funds and allow us to execute the task order to complete the required plan to qualify for the grant.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
No.
No, just a little bit of clarification.
Go ahead, sir.
Unless you're saying that we did get the grant, so we're gonna get the $5 million or so, but we need to do this in order to get the monies.
I did not say that. I said that we have applied for a grant and that we need to do this to get the monies. But if we get awarded the grant and we have not done this, there will not be time to do this in order to get the grant monies. We need to start this project now because it will take months to complete, and it will be complete just about the time the grant award comes in.
You could clarify that.
How sure are you of us getting the grant?
There's a couple things I don't ever predict. I never predict how Trump is going to vote, and I never predict the grant result. But I will tell you that this has strong support with the staff of the Water Board, and that this is a kind of a poster child project for these grant funds. And both the Wallace Group and the Water Board both have made comments that we are a strong contender for the money.
Any other questions or comments from council?
Nope.
Do we have any speaker cards in this item?
I have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
I have a quick comment.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Chandler, if we can just get a report back. Oftentimes we approve these these grants and then we don't hear back. So I really appreciate when we do get a report back, whether we got it or not. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you. Is there a motion on this item?
I move that we adopt resolution number 2020-183 as presented.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll move on to item F16.
Good evening, this is Eva from the planning department. Can you all hear me?
Yes, Eva.
Fantastic, thank you. Item F16, before you tonight, you heard this item a couple council meetings ago in August. This is for the initiation of both pre-zone 2020-2 as well as the initiation of general plan amendment 2020-1 to include 4 parcels, 3 by the applicant, which are 014-120-055-063 as well as -064. These are up on the northeast and southeast side of the intersection of San Felipe Road and Highway 156, as well as staff recommendation to include a 4th parcel, which is APN 014-120-014, to be pre-zoned for future annexation, as well as the general plan amendment to include these in our general plan planning area, which they are currently not included. The staff recommended parcel is recommended to be pre-zoned to M1 light industrial zoning district, and then the 3 applicant parcels are recommended to be pre-zoned into the industrial business park zoning district. If you have any specific questions about the project that I can clarify or recall for you, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions or comments from the council?
No.
I do have some comments. I did finally receive this set of plans or the draft of the concepts, which actually look pretty good. I did like the concepts and ideas. The only concern I have is we still have some issues because the tax sharing agreement was not finalized for commercial properties, so that still needs to happen. And there's some other issues. I think what we should be doing is set up a study session to get more clarity on this project as far as what can and can't be done from within our plans, and more importantly, how are we going to finish on this tax sharing agreement that was not finished while there was discussions going on with the tax sharing agreement, because without that agreement in place, there was nothing we can do. City Manager, do you have any recommendations on that?
Well,
I have a comment on the tax sharing agreement. It was specifically left out for commercial because it was gonna be on a case-by-case basis, a negotiation with the county on a case-by-case basis. So tax sharing agreement was completed for what the task was that we were assigned.
But unfortunately, when we're doing a case-by-case basis, we're gonna find ourselves in a case like this, and that's not what we want to be in. I think we need to have those discussions now to move to the next step. As I said, I did like the concept, I like the ideas, but the reality is we need to get this tax sharing part of this worked out so we move to the next steps.
Is the tax sharing agreement not at the time of annexation? This is an initiation for a pre-zoning, an initiation for an expansion of sphere of influence, so it's not exactly right at the heart of the subject yet. You don't even want to proceed with an initiation?
Well, but that's kind of the problem. We kind of want to make sure we're getting everything lined up, and so if we move forward with this, there's no holdups for this developer on his commercial property. And that's, again, I think very important that we understand that. Otherwise, we're going to find ourselves in a situation where we're making promises, and if for some reason the county does not want to negotiate an agreement, this developer on this commercial property will be stuck in the middle here. I think this is something we should be really, again, working with the county to finish off these negotiations and get them done complete, so we're not having to do this every time there is another parcel that wants to come into the city for commercial or industrial development.
So it is, there's no commercial on this project,
N-
correct?
no.
It's industrial from what I'm
No,
seeing.
I mean, they have, their plans would be 2 hotels, conference center, restaurant, potential fuel station. So there are different retail aspects. So, but the issue would be without any kind of approval, we're not really sure what we would be negotiating at this time.
They have to have the conditional use permit to go with a commercial use in an industrial zone. So
Correct.
that's also another review.
Correct.
I think this goes back to, again, the conversation of having an agreement for annexing in commercial or industrial properties so that we can move forward on projects and not have developers like this, they're trying to build a commercial property, have to wait for that agreement to happen. I'm still concerned that we're moving forward, but again, we don't have an agreement with the county. And as I said before, that we should have this already, but we need to finalize that.
I think
on
I
it.
think it's a little bit different animal when you're talking about commercial, industrial versus residential. Because it really hinges on what type of development that they're gonna put in there. It's not just a straight same thing as it is in residential, at least that's the way I understand it, that it could be different things.
Yeah.
So how are you gonna do a standardized agreement? How will you do a standardized agreement? They really should be negotiated on the merits of that project, what they're proposing. That has a bearing on it.
Well, in the past, the agreement was basically 100% on commercial industrial, so we need to just figure out where we're at again and make sure we're working with the county to get this finalized as we had before on these types of projects. So I think it's important that we do get some sort of agreement in place so it's more fair for these developers, because I looked at this project and I thought, not a bad concept. I like what they're proposing. Where are we at with these other steps? And to find that we're not there yet because of this lock-in agreement, I think puts us at a disadvantage and definitely hurts the developers' timeline on this. So I'd like to see what we can do to set a meeting soon, city manager, with the county, and I would say you should probably be the one negotiating. I know we couldn't agree very well in the past, but I think if you can go in and try to work up something with the county to finalize this part of the agreement for annexing the commercial industrial areas, it would be very helpful so we can just again move forward and move much quicker on future projects and on this project.
I hear.
And then again, a study session to make sure what we can do and can't do and what we want to see happening there before we move too much further. Is that something that can be done in by the meeting the first week of August or October?
Yes, that's something we can do, but Abraham also wanted to address some issues that you brought up also, so real quick.
If that's okay, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Abraham Prado, Development Services Planning Manager. Just wanted to address that with this item, as Councilmember Carolyn Noor indicated, this would be for the initiation of the pre-zone as well as the general plan initiation, which the general plan initiation requires a unanimous four votes, as you well know. And so if approved tonight, then at this point, we would be able to start, it would actually provide the applicant the opportunity to start the environmental process, which that alone in itself can take potentially at minimum 1 year, if not more, and it just really depends. We know we've done environmental documents that can be as fast as 16 weeks, approximately 4 months, but for something like this, the nature of this project, which is very involved with the pre-zoning, with the general plan amendment and future commercial developments, we normally do the environmental review at full build out. In this case, with an industrial business park pre-zoning that we would be recommending, but it is very, very involved, so we don't anticipate this environmental review going any sooner than 1 year. So just wanted to throw that out there just to indicate the process of just the initiation part of it. But nonetheless, the comments that you indicated as well, Mr. Mayor, regarding the property tax exchange agreement are very valid in regards to the actual pre-zone, as you well are informed and know about as well. So just wanted to throw that out there, and if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Abraham, I do have some questions. On this, if we go ahead and vote, we get a unanimous 4-0 vote on this tonight, there's still time to talk to the county about tax sharing. Plenty of time?
The time that would be required to do the actual CEQA work per the California Environmental Quality Act, yes, there will be at minimum 4 months. But again, because of the nature of this project, I don't anticipate this process being any less than a year.
Okay, so there's no reason that we can't, I'm still asking, thank you, Mr. Resendez. So we could go ahead, like I said, we could vote on this, there's plenty of time, but it is important that this be voted on tonight.
For purposes of getting started with the environmental review, that is correct. With the no vote, or with the even with the 3-1 vote in favor of it, the environmental document cannot get started because it would not be approved. So just for purposes of getting the environmental done, or at least kicked off, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor. Go ahead, sir. Thank you. This is for the city attorney. Mr. City Attorney, I have a question. If we do go ahead and annex this land in, and I think it does need for a general plan amendment, it does need a 4-0 vote tonight. If we do go ahead and annex this land in, is there any potential, if we change, or if the city council changes their mind, that we might be putting ourselves up for possible litigation?
Well, Councilmember Resendez, as I understand your question, it is if you were to vote this in 4-0 and the city were to change its mind in the future, would the city be subject possibly to litigation? Did I understand you correctly?
Exactly. Would the developer possibly be able to sue the city for anything?
Well, I would hate to go into any details regarding what a developer could or could not sue the city for, but there's always a risk of litigation, especially when one party or another interprets what was or was not done by a city council differently, if that makes sense. I realize that's a little waffly, but that's probably about as far as I'm comfortable going in open session, Councilmember Resendez.
I understand. Thank you for your honesty with that question. So I too did get the plans. Thank you to the developers that sent that to me. It does seem like a really nice project. It's got a lot of potential for our community. I think this is definitely something worth considering to do a general plan amendment and to annex it. But however, I don't want to rush into anything. Just given our history with, being threatened to be sued by developers and whatnot, I think if we take that first step where we may open ourselves up to get sued, and I want to do this the right way and make sure that essentially we cross all our T's, dot all our I's. So I really like the project. I appreciate the developers reaching out to me, and I look forward to further discussion more. But I'm not in any hurry to do it. That's for sure.
Thank you, sir. I think City Manager Abraham, what I'm trying to point out is if we start this in this direction, for an example, they start doing environmental studies and so on, then we get to the point of finalizing the tax sharing agreement, but we cannot come to an agreement. Does the project get built in the city?
My understanding, Mr. Mayor, and this may also be more towards a legal question, is that my understanding is that if there is no agreement, property tax exchange agreement, then it cannot be annexed. It's my understanding, right? And it would have to be annexed in order for it to be built in the city. They can proceed with the unincorporated area, being that it's currently in the unincorporated area, but citywide. In order for it to be built in the city and get its proper entitlements, there would need to be a property tax exchange agreement in place. think I would defer that more towards the city attorney because it's more of a legal thing. However, yeah, so that's my understanding of the project. If CEQA is completed, at this time, the intent is to review at full build out of the industrial business park pre-zoning that we are recommending as staff for this parcel or these 4 parcels to have. Pending approval of the CEQA document and pending that the property tax exchange agreement is approved and pending that it's annexed, at that point we actually look at it once more once we get the project specific. So in case things change from now to then at that time we review it once again, project specific. Of course, we use all the CEQA document that has been prepared and hopefully by that time adopted. But we look at it once more, and if we have to do, for example, an amendment to the traffic study because the routes are more specific now, or amendment to any of the other sections of the environmental document, at that point we would do, and we would not bring it before the planning commission and or the city council without making sure that we have that additional CEQA information prepared for at the project specific stage.
Correct. And that is my concern. I think, as Councilmember Sanders brought up in the past, there's been different deals that weren't complete, and then threats of lawsuits and finger pointing at different things. I think it's very important, as I said before, to get this agreement done so it's more fair to the developer, in this case commercial industrial developer, to know what he's dealing with up front, that it's a reality. So for an example, if that agreement had been done in the past, then tonight we'd be in a situation of knowing that it is actually realistic to get this project done, and all it would take is our votes to move it to the next step. My concern is we take it to the next step here and then find ourselves in the situation where we can't get the tax share agreement put together, and a lot of going back and forth with no results, and leaves us in a bind, and people again threatening lawsuits or people angry about promises that aren't being kept. So I think it's very important that we, as Councilmember Sanders pointed out, let's get the T's crossed and the I's dotted. Let's get this done in a way that makes sense, and it's fair for these developers, for this commercial property. Again, I think it was a good proposal that we looked at, but without the tax share agreement, we're going to find ourselves in trouble. And I'd like to have again the city manager go back and speak with the county and try to get some meetings together, work this out, and I would say bring this back. Hopefully we get an agreement before October 19th, just give it enough time to get this thing finalized as far as the tax share agreement. And by tax share agreement, I mean a agreement for future projects also, so we're not one by one each time a commercial property wants to come into the city. We can have an agreement just like was done for the residential component. That was under the whole for any new projects coming in to the city. That deal is already done. And I want to see the same thing happening with the commercial side of this. So again, we're not spending time wondering if we're going to have an agreement or not by the time these types of projects are finalized. It's only fair to the developer for them to know they're investing their money, and that money will not be lost, wasted, if we cannot come to an agreement. So I would request that the city manager again have some meetings, set some timelines, and let's bring this back. Hopefully you can have an agreement by October 19th so we can vote on this. And at that point, I'm absolutely willing to support something like this, but I want to see that we have the basics taken care of first, so we're not getting ahead of ourselves that we have in the past.
Can I make one last point, Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, sir.
He's gonna sell the
I
city
just want
short
to point out
and
that
doing
I
it
think
that
this
way.
council has approved every commercial business or industrial business that has come across us on the dais. I don't remember a time that we didn't. So I think we're very pro-business. When it comes to residential, obviously it's a whole different story. We've got a split council. Everybody knows that. But this is kind of a big deal, and I don't want to rush through it. If anything, like you said, it's just going to get us to be able to lay a strong foundation for us moving forward. But This is, it requires a general plan amendment. It's a 4/5 vote. It's a lot of potential, so I definitely favor that, and I appreciate you pointing that out. Thank you.
City manager?
Oh, wait, I would like to point something out. I think that we're getting past something here. We're not talking about annexing this property tonight. We're talking about initiating the pre-zoning. We can initiate the pre-zoning, we can talk to the county, we can work out a tax share agreement, and then when this project comes back to us for approval of annexation, all that will be in order. If we postpone this tonight, we're postponing the developer for another month or two. We've already lost one commercial development because of the lack of whatever. They decided to go to San Juan Bautista. I really don't want to see this one leave either. So I don't see why we cannot vote a 4-0 vote to initiate pre-zoning, and before it comes back as annexation, we have the agreement with the county on the tax share. And everything just moves ahead. We roll. Because if we stop this, if this does not get to the initiation of pre-zoning tonight, you're postponing the developer, and that's not a good thing. Not a good thing at all. They've been waiting for a long time to get to this place. And if we postpone it, they might just pull out.
Yeah, I'm just not very comfortable doing that tonight. Thank you for your feedback on that.
Thank you, and let's go back to, I don't know what company you're talking about that pulled out of building in Hollister to San Juan Bautista, but again, this is the beginning of a zoning into annexation into the city. And again, the foundational parts of this are still missing, as I've talked about for years about these issues and how important it is to make sure we have everything in place so these types of issues don't happen. If this developer were to move forward and we start having all these conversations, the studies are done, and for some reason the county decides, no, they don't want it, let this land be annexed into the city, then where is the developer at? We just need to do the basic, simple process that should be done. It should have been done a long time ago. As I said, when the negotiations started happening about tax sharing, I warned about some of these things, making sure these things needed to be addressed. And I was taken off of that committee, even though I had spent a year before having these conversations. So I knew full well what was at stake as far as not only residential, but commercial industrial. And unfortunately, only half of the negotiations were done. We need to wrap up the other parts because any developer of commercial industrial property should know that if that property is there, it can be annexed into the city without a problem because those steps have already been taken, and we can help that developer move along much quicker to get his project or her project done. So these are basic steps, crossing the T's, dotting the I's. Before we do any more pre-zones, we need to make sure we have something that can actually be annexed in and avoid any more threats of lawsuits because something couldn't be delivered later. So I'm just asking if the city manager should take the time to meet with the CAO of the county, discuss sharing, bring it back October 9th. Hopefully a deal is worked out that we can start moving forward, and we can be confident from that point on that any commercial, industrial, retail complex can be annexed and we have the agreements in place. That is good planning. That's what we need to be doing.
That's not good planning.
Mr. City Manager, is that something you can do?
That's definitely something I can do. I'll call the county tomorrow.
So we move this to a date certain of October 19th. Would that give you enough time to make that happen?
I do have speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, yeah, just asking the city manager if that gives enough time.
I will do my best to make sure that that's enough time, and I would like it to be brought back, so that's fine.
Well, we have confidence in you, so
Okay.
I think you can do it. So let's go and move to any speakers that we do have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Joe Giacalone.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and council members. I represent Bill Christopher, the owner of the project, as you all know. I'm just going to go down some of the points that I have written down. I will have a letter here in the morning from Bill Christopher absolving the city of Hollister from any lawsuits regarding this project, number one. Number two, we've already met with the county. The county is the one that told us to come and meet with you guys to work out a tax sharing agreement, and we've had a couple meetings with Abraham and Brett about that. Your existing tax sharing agreement with the county, it doesn't need to be rewritten from scratch. It just needs to be amended to add the percentages that the county and the city are willing to divide between each other. So I'm not sure, Mr. Mayor, your concerns are needed regarding being sued and not having the agreement. You guys have an agreement. It just needs to be tweaked a little bit. You know, I agree with Vice Mayor Spencer. Every time we come here and we hear stuff like this, we lose another month. And we're at a critical stage with some of our potential people that are looking at this project. And I'm just scared if we come here next month, even though we get this agreement and the city and the county get the agreement worked out, there's going to be something else that everyone wants tweaked. And I go back to the fact that this is nothing more than allowing us to fill out and submit the paperwork and the drawings and the project description for the pre-zoning and annexation agreements. And our civil engineer, who's RJA, who's a very respectable company, it'll take us 2 to 3 months just to get, once we fill out that application, if we fill it out tomorrow, it's going to take us 2 to 3 months to get everything designed and filled out. The drawings that I went over with everyone, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Resendez, that's a conceptual drawing. That isn't the drawing and the information that'll be submitted to the city for the pre-zoning annexation. So I'm not sure what else to say, but I can guarantee you this. Mr. Christopher has no intentions of suing the city. He's well vested in this city. And I can tell you right now, representing him, that the Christopher family would not ever sue this city over something like this. So I hope you guys can vote on it tonight so that we don't lose another month, because we're at a very, very critical stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Giacalone.
Mark Medina? One more, Mark Medina?
Mr. Mayor and council members, thank you for allowing me to speak. First of all, I'll speak to the tax sharing agreement. The tax sharing agreement was completed. It was voted on 3-2. It was Council Member Carol Lenore, Council Member Honor Spencer, and Council Member Marty Richmond. And the people against it were the mayor and Resendez. So it was completed, and we did say if you read the agreement, and if you can read it and look at it, it says a case-by-case basis. So this is exactly what this is intended to do. So I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, if you're hurt because you were taken off the committee, and you felt that this was not the right way to do it, but it was voted on, and it's sitting as a document which needs to be upheld by the city attorney. You need to look at that and make sure that it is a case-by-case basis. It makes perfect sense to me. I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
I have no more speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Let me explain, Mr. Giacalone, thank you for speaking, and I agree. The Christopher family are very reputable people, and I appreciate it, and I did appreciate you getting us the information, and I do like the project. unfortunately, Mr. Medina, the problem is a case-by-case basis does not mean there's an agreement. It means it's a case-by-case basis. And made that very clear how important it was to get this taken care of so we have an agreement. Otherwise, we'd have a case-by-case basis for residential, but somehow that wasn't case-by-case. That was for everything. And I want to make sure we get ourselves in a situation here for commercial, industrial, retail, that we have an agreement that we're all agreeing on and we can move forward, so we don't have to go case by case. It's only fair for those that want to develop commercial, industrial property, as it was for those that were developing residential properties. That being said, this puts us in the situation of case-by-case basis. So what is
We voted
the
on and
agreement?
approved.
Hang on a second.
Voted on and approved that process.
This means,
You
hang
can't
on.
backtrack now.
Next, Councilor Lenore, please. This means what I'm saying. We do not have a tax sharing agreement for this property. And I would like the city manager to take the time to meet with the CAO and get a agreement done for this commercial industrial part of our community, so we don't have to, again, go case by case.
But that's
Because
what
this
was
is what's
voted
gonna-
on.
This is what's gonna take much longer for these commercial industrial developers. What they need to know is that we already have an agreement and they can move forward just exactly like the residential developers wanted to have in their hands. It's very important for these types of businesses to know that their annexation is solid because the agreement's already in place. So all we're asking for here is for the city manager to have those meetings with the county. Let's get this tax sharing agreement worked out and done so these gentlemen can move on with their project. As I said, I actually thought this project was pretty good, but without a tax sharing agreement, we don't have anything. And we need to start understanding, laying down the foundational issues so we don't have these conversations anymore. We can plan more thoroughly for our future without having to get bogged down in negotiations by case basis. That's not the way we should be doing business. We should have this thing worked out already. And I'm gonna ask again that city manager step back, meet with the CEO and hopefully have the agreement they can bring back before by the October 19th meeting, so we can move on to the next step. I do think this is a project we should be exploring.
The floor, please. The floor,
Thank you.
please.
Go ahead, Ms. Lenore.
You're violating the agreement right there. We've already decided, the majority of the council has already decided. Protocol number 5 also states that when the majority of the council votes on an item, the other two need to follow along. That's what the protocol states for number 5. We've already stated, we settled the residential tax sharing agreement, and that was what we were supposed to be doing, and we said that we would do a case by case. We voted on that. It's just that you were in the minority. So the majority has already said that it's gonna be a case by case basis. What don't you get?
Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. This is regards to Mr. Giacaloni's comments. Thank you for coming up here, and I appreciate that you dropped off that letter from Mr. Christopher, and I don't have any doubt that you, as you stated, that they do have the community's best interests in mind. But if that property were to exchange hands for any reason, then I think that letter would probably be no longer valid, I would say. So that's something that I'm a little bit concerned about. We're elected to essentially protect the city's interests. So we haven't had very good luck in doing that when we were in the minority of the council. My other thing is, you made a statement about essentially that the county is willing to sit down and to discuss this tax sharing agreement. So I'm happy to hear that. However, I did not hear that echoed from the board of supervisors that came up. He essentially said it's a case-by-case basis. That doesn't really give me the same type of, I would say, hope that you were telling me. So I would like, at this point, it's obvious that we're not going to have a consensus. I would like at this point that we can just follow the direction of the mayor, have the two city manager and CEO sit down and have a
He just sits
discussion,
there.
that's probably what I feel most comfortable with. And if Mr. Christopher does in fact have the city's interest in mind, then he wouldn't mind waiting just one more month for us to figure that out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. And I do want to again remind the council, there is no agreement for tax sharing on this property. That is the problem of having a case by case negotiation. It's flawed and it's bad planning.
It was a 3-2 vote. You lost. 3-2 vote. You lost.
No, unfortunately, the community lost because you didn't.
You're
finish
lucky Marty.
negotiating.
You're lucky Marty isn't sitting here right now.
We're gonna go back.
We would have took care of you already.
I believe if the county is really serious about this, they'll be willing to sit down with our city manager and wrap this negotiation up. So again, we don't have any more case by case basis. We have solid decision making and solid planning, which is critically important to our future. So we don't keep just doing things one by one. We need to have a bigger, better plan, and we can do this. So I'm gonna ask again for the city manager to go back, have these conversations, and bring it back to us by the October 19th meeting, if he can get a negotiation and a deal with the county. Okay, so is there a motion to, for a date certain?
I'd like to delay the motion because I don't really like it.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
I don't really understand what.
Well, you're delaying the project. Why don't we just delay the vote?
Make the motion, sir.
Thank you. I propose that we move, I think this is the right one, resolution number 2020-184 to a date certain of October, what was it?
19th.
19th?
Yes.
Okay.
Any motion?
So you want the city manager to go and negotiate with the county, then you keep your fingers out of it. Got it? Keep your fingers out of it. You represent yourself and only yourself. You don't represent me or honor, you represent yourself and only yourself. So when the city manager starts, you keep your input out of it unless it's in a public meeting. Thank you.
Unfortunately, I am the mayor, so I.
Unfortunately, you have the same power as I do, sorry.
That's probably we all do. So there's a motion, is there a second to have the meeting, for date certain of October 19th and have the city manager go back and negotiate with the county? I will second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Again, you win and we protest, aye.
And I protest this, but aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Thank you very much. We'll now
You're not
move to
welcome.
item F17.
Oh, wow. Didn't he vote to annex this and now he's backing out?
Item F17 was continued from the August 17th City Council meeting to tonight's meeting by a tie vote. This is a resolution of the City Council to approve an annexation agreement for the Woodle property, APN 019120005, and allowing for the signing and executing of the annexation agreement. The Woodle property, as you're all aware, is a little over 9 acres north of Buena Vista Road and west of Miller Road, or west side Boulevard, excuse me. And so tonight, staff is recommending that the City Council adopt this resolution to approve the annexation and allow the agreement to be executed.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions from council? Do we have any speaker cards in this item?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Christine Kemp is going to do a PowerPoint presentation, and then I have 2 speakers. So, actually, yeah, 2. So, Christine, are you there? Okay, give us just a second to pull up your presentation. Okay, we're ready. Go ahead.
Good evening, council members and mayor. My name is Christine Kemp. I'm appearing on behalf to the project applicant. As I said before, the state law, housing laws mandate that your council follows staff's recommendation and approve the Whittle annexation agreement and initiate the annexation proceedings. As the mayor pointed out in the last discussion, all the foundational parts are here for this project. Go to slide 3, please. The housing actions are, the two actions before you tonight are necessary for the Whittle housing project. The Whittle Housing Development Project entitlements sought by Mr. Bickle are for 98 single-family detached dwelling units on the Whittle property. The Whittle project applicant has expended over $200,000 in fees and costs associated with the Whittle Housing Development Project, including property pre-zoning, mapping, project reports, and CEQA analysis. And as the mayor said in the prior project as well, it's fair to the developer to know that he's not wasting his money when he's gone through this much of a process and has all of the building blocks in place. Slide 5, please. The Whittle project site has city general plan designation of medium density residential. The general plan actually identifies it as a priority infill area. The project site has historically been used for an auto restoration business. It's not zoned for or used for agricultural purposes. The site is within the city's sphere of influence. Slide 7. Your city council, again, the foundational elements are all in place. The city council has initiated the pre-zone. They've done the negative declaration for the Whittle Housing Development Project, as well as the property rezone to facilitate the housing development project. And the pre-zoning has been approved by your city council for the housing development project. The negative declaration for the Whittle project in the pre-zone said that the development of the project site is a logical expansion of the city consistent with the general plan. The environmental effects of the population growth associated with the proposed project are evaluated throughout this initial study, and all impacts can be mitigated to less than significant level. The initial study for the Whittle project also analyzed an impact of 109 houses. The Whittle project is proposing 98, well within the number of units analyzed in the negative declaration. The city of Hollister is an affected city under SB 330, and the Housing Accountability Act as well as the Housing Crisis Act apply to the city. The Housing Crisis Act prohibits the city from downzoning the parcels, imposing a moratorium or restrictions on development, and capping the housing number units that can be approved. Under State Housing Accountability Act, the city cannot deny a housing development project that is consistent with the general plan unless it finds there's adverse impacts to health, safety, and no feasible mitigation. As I mentioned before, there's been a negative declaration, mitigated negative declaration, and that mitigated negative declaration for the Whittle Housing Development Project found there's no substantial evidence in light of the whole record before the lead agency, which was the city, that the project with mitigation measures may have a significant impact on the environment. The housing laws apply not only to housing developments, but required land use approvals for the building permit. The two resolutions before you tonight to approve the Whittle annexation agreement and initiate the LAFCO proceedings for the Whittle property are necessary for the Whittle housing project development. The city has twice been told by the state that it's violating the state law in 2 letters, finding that the city's growth management program, as well as pending inaction on stalling and blocking pending housing applications violate state law. The 2 resolutions before the city council facilitate the housing development project, comply with the general plan and zoning standards and criteria adopted by your city council, and there are no unmitigated impacts. The city's split vote on these resolutions continues to be a de facto denial in violation of state law. The city must approve the Whittle project within 5 hearings. You've already had 4 on this. This is the 5th hearing. And also, it's become evident that continuing to pursue this process, with the split vote becomes a futile action and also resulting in a failure to move the project forward. We need these resolutions passed to facilitate the housing development project. Violating the state housing laws, as I mentioned before, it's potential fines, awards of attorney's fees, and additionally, by failing to take the legally required action to approve the Whittle property entitlements to facilitate the housing development project, the city is causing unreasonable and unnecessary delay in continuing losses, and damage to the project proponent. The city is a violation of state law if the city council does not affirmatively vote to approve the Whittle property annexation resolutions to facilitate the construction of the Whittle Housing Development Project. And as the mayor said, all of the building blocks and elements for this housing development project have been in place, and you're required to move it forward unless otherwise you're violating the state law. Thank you. We got lost on this.
Hugh Bickle?
Abraham. The attorney said all the legal stuff, so I'll just cover the easy stuff. The Whittle property has historically been used as an auto restoration business and is not zoned for or used for agriculture for decades. It is immediately across the street from the elementary school and public park and other housing, and all public services are to this site. The property has no well to supply ag water and is supplied only by domestic water from the city water line in front of the property and adjacent to it. The mitigation, the CEQA work is complete and the project is completely cleared. There will be no negative impacts from this project. That was the finding of it, and the findings were adopted by the city council. The zoning, pre-zoning was done and adopted by the city council. It was adopted for the city council as medium density, which is what this project is going to be. And by the way, medium density uses half the land, or half the agricultural land, if that's what you want to talk about, half the agricultural land per house that the standard single family uses. It's one of the reasons why we pursue these kinds of developments. Anyway, our attorney already spoke. Do you have a question?
Mr. Bickle, when the property was voted on to pre-zone, do you know what the vote was?
4-0 at the planning commission and at the, I don't remember the city council, but it was, I know initially like the hearing you're having now on the commercial property, I know that at that time the mayor voted in favor of going forward, which is what we based our decision to go forward and start spending all the money and fees and time and effort to process this. But apparently the mayor has changed his mind. But the problem is that it's way too late to be changing your mind. It's not fair to us. It's not fair to the Whittles. The Whittles are really nice people, and I don't know whether I'm a nice person or not, but I haven't done anything to deserve this kind of treatment, and the Whittles certainly haven't done anything to deserve this kind of treatment. It's just not fair what's being done.
You're right. Thank you, Mr. Bickle.
Scott
Do we have
Stotler?
Speakers.
Yes. One more, Mr. Mayor, on this item.
Good evening, members of the council. I just wanted to take a chance. Was going to do this a few meetings ago. I can tell you as a character reference, Hugh Bickle is a known developer since the 60s and 70s when he started at San Jose. This gentleman here, I can tell you, takes pride in building homes for people as first-time home buyers. He'll tell you story after story of young school teachers not being able to qualify, him helping them out get their first house. I can tell you right now, as far as developers, that I do architecture for a living. I've seen Hugh Bickle's projects and worked with him for years. Not on this project at all, but I just wanted to give him a character reference. And this is a gentleman that plays by the rules. He always has, and he's a hard worker, and he loves what he does. And anyway, that was it. I just wanted to give you a character reference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
I have no more speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion on this item?
I move that we adopt resolution number
Okay.
2020-186.
Just one more comment.
Oh, one
Go
more?
ahead, sir.
One more
Thank you.
comment. Oh,
I want to be very clear. Hopefully I'm not yelled and screamed at and interrupted. My position
maybe
and the
not.
mayor's position on this item has never changed. It has not changed. What changed was we were sitting on a 3-2 council for the last 2 years, 3 of whom were very much for residential growth and approved lots of homes. And what changes, unfortunately, not to speak ill of
They were already
anybody,
approved.
but that one vote passed away. They're gone. Now we're in a deadlock. And just like developers do for these growths, these residential growths, they're taking full advantage of our current situation, which is really sad and despicable. The public, especially in this district, are sick and tired
of you.
Of residential growth. They're sick and tired of council members being appointed to the council by their friends to approve more houses. And they're sick and tired of council members who think they can run for mayor because they're backed by developers and they had a majority of the vote. Look at you now. And anybody else that is pro-growth is going to end up just like you two. So don't come up here and side with developers and put on a show for your friends.
You're putting the show on.
failed the community, and it shows, and it's an embarrassment. Anybody else that sides with you is going to be on the same page as you, and I am so sickened that the developers are taking full advantage of somebody who passed away to try to tear us apart. This was the last residential project that you 3 approved in this city. And that's all I gotta say about that.
No, just let it go. He's a moron.
Roland, Ignacio, can I say something, please?
Yes, you can, Vice Mayor.
We're not gonna go back and forth.
No, I'm not.
You
I'm
just
not-
let him. Now you're gonna let her, Vice
If you
Mayor.
have a comment about the project, go ahead.
But Roland says whatever he wants. We're all crooks up here. Get real, Mayor. Get real.
Okay, Ms. Spencer, do you have a comment?
I'm not Miss Spencer, I'm Vice Mayor Spencer.
But Vice Mayor.
And I will say something as Vice Mayor now. I will not sit on this dais and be slammed and bullied by a council member. I expect you as the mayor to say something for all of us. You voted for this, a 5-0 vote to pre-zone this, and now you've backed out. You have allowed your friend, Mr. Resendez, to bully and call names and
Accuse us of being under the take? Seriously? Who tells me what to do? I do what's right with the staff report. How dare you, Councilman Resendez, accuse me of being some kind of crook?
And
Nobody takes advantage of me ever.
Okay, wait, I'm not finished. Ignacio, I'm not finished.
you
I have
should've reined
sat
him in.
here. I have sat here.
Why don't you speak? Go ahead.
I am speaking right now. I have sat here for the last 2 meetings, keeping my mouth shut because I do not want to get angry anymore. I'm tired of being angry. I don't say anything bad about Roland, and I don't say anything bad about you, but I'm tired of him doing it to me. And you doing nothing to call him on the carpet. You talk about professional, you talk about sickened, and you talk about embarrassment. Roland Resendez, you are the biggest embarrassment this town has ever seen.
That's
You
why
are an
were
embarrassment to
censured.
this council.
Mr.
You're an
Censured.
embarrassment to this community.
One person at a time.
I wasn't censured. Hey, who was censured?
Roland Resendez.
Okay, all right, everyone, well, we're talking about a different item now.
Well, you shouldn't have brought,
Thank you.
you brought that
Thank you for
crap here.
Your opinions, and going back to your question, Vice Mayor Spencer, about my vote originally, you know, back in 2015, whatever that was, I had conversations with everybody about how important it was to plan for this community so we could start doing things correctly. We didn't know exactly what this project was about, but that whole area was important to zone it correctly, make sure we had the amenities we needed,
Was it
and
in the
so
general
on.
plan?
But guess what happened? There was no effort after that to do anything, to update the general plan, to make the improvements we needed. So I quickly learned that approving pre-zoning is a mistake, and I voted no on the final zoning on this for one simple reason.
Get you
We
votes.
did not have a good plan put together. All that's been done in this community since then is slap in new developments without doing the projects we need to do to make our community better as a whole. And that is my stance. And this is why it took over 5 years to get this general plan moving along. And even with that, we only have 3 members of the 5 because we could not agree with it.
Because you hijacked the
Sad.
general
It
plan
is
committee.
frustrating, but I can tell you all that if we do these steps as a general plan and plan correctly, we can get through this without all this arguing and bickering back and forth, and we can do things right and grow at the right pace so it benefits our community as a whole rather than a few individuals. And that's just what needs to be changed. And that's why I did vote no on the final annexation of this project. And this is why I'm going to continue to vote no until we have a better plan in place that the community as a whole can support. And I'll go back to, is there a motion on this item?
Yeah, I move that we adopt resolution 2020-186 as presented.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Aye. Motion does not carry. We're going to move to item F18.
Thank you. And I'd just like to ask our city attorney if the previous item was continued because this item is tied. So just want to ask for clarification if I might, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Ms. Kelly, I couldn't quite hear all of that, but I believe you were asking if item 18 should be withdrawn, given that it's dependent on item 17 and it did not pass. Is that correct?
Yes, item F18, I'll just introduce it, is a recommendation to LAFCO, to apply to LAFCO for the annexation of the Wheeler property. And because item F17 is a tie, I'd just like to ask for clarification on the result of F17 because they are tied together.
I think she's asking if it is being tabled to the next council meeting or.
It's the second, yeah, that's it.
That's the fourth.
That was the fifth.
Litigation, probably.
Item 18 at this point is essentially moot. So the city council still can discuss it if it wants to, but I don't know that there would be any motion that would be appropriate at the end of that conversation. And of course,
we should do like all the other meetings, this is a separate item, requiring a separate motion.
It is a separate item. I was just curious about the result of it, so.
We need to hear it.
Staff would not recommend that the council send an item to LAFCO without an annexation agreement. So, I would recommend that you adopt this resolution if the other item was adopted.
But it wasn't. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, we know.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Is there any questions or comments from council? Do we have any speaker cards on this item?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Hugh Bickle? Oh, he left. Christine Kemp, you have your hand up? Please go ahead.
Mr. Mayor and council, I would ask that you take a vote on this motion. We'd like to have a clear record of the action on the request to initiate the LAFCO proceeding.
Okay, do we have any other speakers?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion on this item?
I make a motion that we deny resolution number 2020-186.
There's a motion. Is there a second? I will second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against?
No.
No.
Motion does not carry.
I want to clarify that the last item, I inadvertently used the wrong number. I meant to say 2020-185 instead of 186.
That is noted,
Thank
Carol.
you.
Yes, I have that. Thank you.
and I would just point out, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. I would just point out that because the last motion was to deny the item and that motion failed, it's certainly open for a different motion from a member of the council.
Well,
Yes.
what's the point?
Is there another motion?
Yeah, I move that we adopt resolution number 2020-186 as presented.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Aye. Aye.
Okay.
Motion does not carry.
Basis
We're going to
covered.
move now to item F19.
Thank you. My final item tonight is a resolution which will direct staff to make an application to the Local Agency Financial Commission, LAFCO, for the city to provide sewer service outside of its jurisdiction, but within the sphere of influence to the property located at APN 019-310-009, also identified as 1735 Santa Ana Road. This item came before you, I believe, at the June 15th, 2020 meeting, and it's before you again tonight. The city received a request for out-of-jurisdiction services on May 11th, 2020, and for this parcel, it's about 21 acres, and there is a proposal in San Benito County for subdivision of this property into 41 lots, which would construct 40 single-family homes, as well as have a stormwater detention parcel. At this time, staff would recommend that the City Council consider the adoption of a resolution to provide sewer service out of its jurisdictional boundaries to APN 019-310-009. And with the adoption of a resolution, that would also direct us as staff to apply to LAFCO for services if that's the council's desire tonight.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, can you clarify the
Yes.
issue on this item?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item came before the City Council, I believe it was in June of 2020, and due to a question regarding the public hearing, it's back before you tonight. However, it appears that it was mistakenly not agendized as a public hearing. And so I'm going to work with the city clerk to see at what opportunity it can come back before the council as an item to be held for a public hearing.
Do you need a motion for a date certain on that?
Well, it's not absolutely necessary, Mr. Mayor, and I'd like to work with the city clerk to figure out exactly what that first opportunity would be. Or she might know right now. She's looking at the
Since we made the
calendar.
gaffe, I would recommend a special meeting.
Yeah.
We made a gaffe. We made a mistake. You don't let that wait another month.
I say we have a special meeting on the 14th of September.
I think a public hearing has to be a regular meeting, does it not? City Clerk?
No, not if you notice it.
Well, typically that's the case, although she's looking at the calendar now regarding publication.
So if today is we can get it to the newspaper for publication by the 11th, to be noticed.
Let's go with the guidelines of whatever the city clerk has recommended to do it properly, so we don't have to do it again.
I don't know,
Oh, gee, I only did that for 20 years.
so I think
October 5th. The city clerk's indicating that she believes October 5th is the earliest date that we can bring this back for a public hearing.
Okay, whatever you say.
no, honestly, because if we get it to the newspaper here, they'll publish it here. That's not 5 days.
That's correct. You're right. That doesn't work.
So the soonest we could put it on as a public hearing would be October 5th.
We have several people here.
It's a regular special meeting, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
I'd like to apologize to the applicant for our mistake, sir. I'm really sorry. It wasn't intentional, and I'm very sorry that it happened. I know staff is not what they wanted to happen. It wasn't intentional.
It didn't read that this was, it didn't state in the agenda what this meeting was concerning. It looked like it was a public hearing. So,
We apologize for the mistake.
Okay. Do we have any speaker cards on this item tonight?
Yes, Mr. Mayor?
Would they like to speak tonight?
I have Scott Stotler.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I don't know to what extent I could really even get into the project right now if it's not prepared to have a move or a resolution or a vote tonight. I can tell you how discouraged I am right now. It took us 3 months to get back to this hearing. In my career, I've attended thousands of hearings. My sons even at one point told, my wife said, Dad's got to be having an affair because nobody stays out this late at night and comes home at midnight or 1 in the morning. And I can tell you that the way the last conducted hearing happened on our project, I can tell you out of many projects I've been to, I've never seen it in a situation where you had people in the audience still trying to speak. The public hearing was not even closed down yet. So here we are again. So I don't know that I really want to get into the presentation and all that right now. I've got the attorney ready to speak. My partner's ready to speak. I've got some people from the audience ready to speak. I just don't know. I need some direction and find out if it's something that we should go into tonight, or if we want to have another meeting, then that's fine. I just need to know some direction, Mr. Mayor and members of the council.
Yes, so the issue was it wasn't posted as a public hearing, so it would be best to do your presentation at the meeting. We're trying to set for October 5th, I believe I heard, and then you do your presentation and everyone can speak. Of course, everyone is welcome to speak tonight too, because it is listed on the agenda, but that would be up to you and those with you.
I mean, we're prepared to make,
Just so you know, we can't make a decision tonight on anything because it's not posted correctly.
well, I don't know that it would behoove us to go ahead and make our presentation and all of that if you're not able to make a vote. So I think that we'd rather just wait in respect of time and everybody else's time here. And I apologize for anybody that's there watching this meeting via Zoom. I apologize. I'm kind of without words right now. So
Yeah, we apologize too. It was an error that was made and unfortunate.
why could we not have is there a way that we could have a special meeting for that? Because we've already lost 3 months just trying to get back in front to even continue the meeting here. Okay.
Or, yeah, that's the issue, public notice.
Understood.
That's the public hearing, that's the issue here.
Okay.
All right, sorry about that.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Did any of the other guests want to speak at all?
Co Cooper? No. Anthony Lombardo? Anthony, please go ahead. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm sorry, my Zoom connection or the city attorney's microphone weren't that clear this evening, but I think I understood you to say that the matter was not properly agenda or not properly noticed for the public hearing. Hopefully you received my letter earlier this afternoon and has some facts which I think we should be aware of. The city attorney, if I could ask Mr. Epperson to please call me tomorrow because this delay has some other implications related to timing of your last action on this matter that we're going to have to discuss because the actions that the city took last time to improperly terminate public hearing have some legal ramifications, and we'll have to discuss how we deal with those if the hearings may be delayed again. And as I set forth in my letter, the council has never denied a request. The contract doesn't give you the authority to do that, and I would recommend that you consider the legal ramifications of violating your agreement with Sunny Slope, and hopefully at the next hearing you can move forward in a manner which is both equitable to the property owners, fair to the property owners, and consistent with how you've treated every other property owner under this agreement. Thank you.
And Mr. Lombardo, this is Jason Epperson. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, thank you. I fully intend to give you a call tomorrow. That won't be a problem. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
I have no more speakers or speaker cards, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So at this point, we do not need to make a motion on this because it was not properly agendized, correct, city attorney?
That's correct. I think the staff has adequate direction to bring it back for October 5th, yes.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to item G1, reports from city council members regarding their committees. Councilmember Lenore.
I have no committee reports this evening.
Thank you. Councilmember Spencer.
No reports on those.
Councilmember Resendez.
I've got nothing to report.
I do not have any reports either, so we are going to move on to item G2, informational reports from city council.
I met on.
Councilmember Lenore, go ahead.
Thank you. I did meet with, the San Diego County Business Council in their annual monthly meeting. It was a good meeting. I got a great update on the status of Highway 25 and the different alternatives that they're currently discussing, and they've got a lot of work to do there, so it was good to be, to hear it from the business council. And then on September 4th, I spent some time with AMDAG staff, making sure I understand the regional growth forecast, the way they come to their numbers for the regional growth forecast. I have a meeting tomorrow, and I think that's on the agenda for adoption, but I've had my questions answered. I'm confident that our staff understands exactly on the regional growth forecast. They've met repeatedly with Heather Adamson and Maura Toomey and all the folks there in AMDAG, so staff, I'm confident that they know what I was concerned with, and I was concerned with the way they get the employment number, because we have such a large contributor base. But I feel like we're on the money as well as we can be right now. They're always amended every couple of years too. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Spencer.
I have nothing.
Councilmember Resendez.
Couple of things. Number one, I just want to point out, I've never, ever used swear words towards any of you like that. Don't forget, at the beginning of our term, you swore at me and threatened me 3 times that are on the record. The censure is a whole other story. And on top of that, I just want to know what's the update with Councilmember Spencer paying back the money that she owes the city. We haven't heard anything about it. Nothing at all. So, it would have been a different story. It's sad that it's gotten to this point, but it is what it is. It is what it is. I've lost a lot of respect in you, a lot of faith in you.
Go back at you, buddy.
Thank you, Mr. Resendez. My report, I don't have anything other than to report that there will be a special COG meeting for the route adoption of Highway 25. We have narrowed down the choices, and that decision will be made on Monday, September 14th. And I believe the meeting is at 6 p.m. If you have an interest in what's going on with Highway 25, the widened Highway 25, and what will be going on, that would be the day you tune in. You can contact Council of Government's website, or they usually have the meetings posted on the county site also, I believe, or you can contact me directly and I will get you information. Very, very important night. It's finally going to happen. I know a lot of you have been waiting on this, so we're excited to make that final decision and get moving on this highway project that we all know is sorely needed. City Manager, do you have, it's nice to just play City Manager now, no more intro. Do you have anything to say?
Have an update on the general plan, please.
Yeah, I would like to just remind everybody with the Parklet program, we are still moving forward. We have the traffic engineers looking at the traffic study to look at not only the stop signs on San Benito Street, also how the traffic is going to affect Monterey and East Street with the one-way traffic. Plus, they'll be doing the design for the diagonal parking. So we just ask for everybody to be patient. This is the part that takes a little bit the longest because it is in with the consultants, but we are pushing them to move as quickly as possible and hope to have further updates here real soon. That's it.
Thank you, sir. City Attorney?
No statement, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Chief?
Nothing at this time, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, City Clerk.
I sent all council members a email regarding the League of California Cities Annual Conference. And then the voting delegates received via email a copy of the resolutions that need to be voted on at that teleconference. So I'm not sure if there's a way for you to do a vote without attending the teleconference. So I just wanted you to maybe, if you don't remember seeing the email, let me know and I can reshoot it out to you, or if you're interested in doing it, because I think it's all teleconference this year. So just, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, item H, J&K, there's no business, but tonight I do want to adjourn in the memory of Tim Ryder. Tim Ryder is as those that know him, very kind person that passed away from cancer this weekend. I had the honor of marrying him and his wife Susan almost 5 years ago next month. Two incredibly beautiful people. Our condolences to the Ryder family. Susan, we love you, and anything we can do to support you, please let us know. And I hope we can adjourn tonight in his memory. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes, I make that motion to adjourn in Mr. Ryder's memory. My condolences.
Is there a second? Sorry, is there a second to adjourn?
I'll second that.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you all. Good night.
I got it.